The story of our past, the one we learned in school, is missing entire chapters, and the proof has been hiding in plain sight for centuries. We're told our ancestors were primitive, but we've found their nanotechnology. We're told they were superstitious, but we've found their astronomical computers. We're told the timeline is set in stone, but we've found a temple that is older than history itself. These aren't just mysteries anymore. They are pieces of a message, and that message is finally becoming clear. We have to look at the clues, and we have to do it now, because what they reveal will change everything you think you know about being human. Stay with us, and let me know where in the world you are listening to. Your perspective of the world is about to be permanently altered. So sit back, relax, close your eyes, and enjoy this 36 forbidden ancient history. In 1922, when Howard Carter breached the sealed doorway to the tomb of Tutankhamun, he unleashed a torrent of golden treasures that dazzled the world. There were golden masks, golden chariots, and golden thrones, the immense wealth of a pharaoh frozen in time. But hidden quietly amongst this glitter, lying directly on the mummy of the boy king, was a small, humble dagger. This single object, easily overlooked, has proven to be so technologically out of place, so impossibly advanced for its time, that it provides shocking evidence of a connection not just to the gods, but to the cosmos itself. When discovered, the dagger was one of two found with the pharaoh. The first was predictable, with a blade of solid gold, a metal befitting a king. But the second blade was made of iron, and in the 14th century BCE, iron was a substance far rarer and more precious than gold. Egypt was firmly in the Bronze Age. The complex technology required to smelt iron ore from the earth had not yet been invented. So where did this perfectly forged iron blade come from? For decades, this question remained an unsolved puzzle, a technological anomaly in the world's most famous tomb. The breathtaking answer came not from archaeology, but from modern science. Using advanced X-ray analysis, researchers examined the blade's metallic composition. What they found was stunning. The dagger was not made from terrestrial iron. The blade contained high levels of nickel and cobalt, an unmistakable chemical signature that points to only one possible origin. It was forged from a meteorite that had fallen from outer space. This discovery is not just a scientific curiosity, it unlocks a profound new understanding of the ancient Egyptian worldview. They knew exactly what this material was, and they considered it to be divine. Ancient texts refer to iron with a specific term, bia en pet, which translates directly to metal from heaven or thunderbolt from the sky. They saw meteorites as physical pieces of the gods, divine gifts sent from the celestial realm. To possess an object made from this material was to hold a piece of eternity itself. The craftsmanship of the dagger is a testament to the incredible skill of the Egyptian smiths. Despite lacking the technology for widespread iron smelting, they had mastered the difficult art of working with this incredibly tough extraterrestrial metal, heating and hammering it into a flawless blade. The hilt is a masterpiece of ornate gold, decorated with intricate carvings and precious stones, a design that emphasized its immense ceremonial and symbolic value. This was not a common weapon. It was a sacred object, a powerful symbol of the pharaoh's divine right to rule and his direct connection to the cosmos. But how did they acquire it? Did the court astrologers witness a meteorite fall to Earth in the Egyptian desert and dispatch a team to recover the holy fragment? Or was meteoric iron an incredibly prized commodity, traded across vast networks, perhaps from the lands of the neighboring Hittites, who were beginning to experiment with iron themselves? While we don't know for sure, we do know this was not an isolated event. Even older iron beads, also forged from meteorites, have been found in pre-dynastic burials that predate Tutankhamun by 2,000 years, proving a long and sacred tradition of using metal from the stars. The dagger of Tutankhamun is far more than a priceless treasure from a golden tomb. It is a tangible link between the rulers of Egypt and the vast, mysterious universe. It proves that the ancient Egyptians were not just passive stargazers, they were actively collecting pieces of the heavens and forging them into objects of divine power. This single blade, resting beside a king for over 3,000 years, is a powerful reminder that the ancients understood the cosmos in ways we are only just beginning to appreciate, and that the line between their gods and visitors from the sky may have been very thin indeed. Of all the rulers of the ancient world, none have captured our imagination like Cleopatra. She was a queen of formidable intelligence, ruthless political cunning, and legendary charisma. For 2 millennia, her final resting place remained history's most elusive and sought-after secret, a mystery that many believed was lost forever to the shifting coastline of Alexandria. But the secret was not buried in a place of logic. It was waiting for one woman who dared to listen to the whispers of a ghost. This is the story of Kathleen Martinez, a Dominican lawyer who, driven by a lifelong obsession with Egypt's last queen, abandoned her career to chase an impossible dream. She was convinced that the world's most famous archaeologists had been looking in all the wrong places. While scholars searched for the tomb amidst the sunken ruins of ancient Alexandria, Martinez pored over the ancient texts of Plutarch and Cassius Dio. She believed Cleopatra, who saw herself as the reincarnation of the goddess Isis, would not have been buried in the city, but in a temple dedicated to the goddess herself. Her conviction led her to a desolate, crumbling site on the edge of the desert, the Temple of Taposiris Magna. It was a long shot, a theory based on intuition that was dismissed by the academic establishment. Yet, in 2005, she secured permission to begin excavations, embarking on a quest that would be guided by more than science. As her team began to dig, strange and inexplicable events occurred. Key discoveries often coincided with unusual weather, sudden sandstorms and unexpected rains that would reveal new areas of the site, almost as if Cleopatra's spirit was guiding their hands. Some team members reported experiencing vivid dreams of ancient rituals, visions they interpreted as spiritual guidance from the queen herself. Then they found the first clues: coins bearing Cleopatra's likeness and statues from her era, all pointing to a powerful connection between this forgotten temple and the queen. The true breakthrough came when they discovered a vast, mysterious tunnel hidden deep beneath the temple. It was carved with a precise craftsmanship that spoke of a project of immense importance, leading to a series of hidden chambers. Deep within this subterranean complex, the team found a sealed room. Inside was a collection of golden artifacts and, most importantly, inscriptions referring to a Queen of Kings, a divine title uniquely associated with Cleopatra. Martinez's impossible theory was proven correct. She had found it. This was not just a temple, it was a grand burial complex, an architectural marvel designed by Cleopatra to be her eternal home, a place where she could be worshipped as a goddess forever. The intricate carvings, hidden chambers, and sophisticated tunnels showcased the advanced engineering of her time, a testament to a mind that was always planning on a scale grander than her contemporaries. The artifacts discovered within offered a tangible connection to the queen herself. Golden jewelry, necklaces, and rings inscribed with hieroglyphs reflected her royal status and divine ambition. Statues depicted her in the guise of Isis, reinforcing her claim to be a living goddess on Earth. These were not just treasures, they were the final, carefully crafted messages of a ruler who was determined to control her own legacy, even in death. The discovery of Cleopatra's tomb was not just an archaeological find. It was the culmination of a personal quest, a story of passion and intuition rewriting history. It is a powerful reminder that some of history's greatest secrets are not found with maps and tools alone. They are found by those who are willing to challenge convention, to follow a ghost of a whisper, and to listen to a powerful voice reaching out across the silent centuries, waiting to be heard. Deep beneath the sun-scorched sands of Egypt, near the ancient step pyramid of Saqqara, lies a subterranean world that defies all logic. This is not a tomb for pharaohs, but a cryptic labyrinth carved into the bedrock, hiding a secret so profound it threatens to shatter our entire understanding of the ancient world. In 1850, the French archaeologist Auguste Mariette, guided by ancient descriptions of an avenue of sphinxes, blasted his way into this hidden complex, uncovering one of the most baffling enigmas in human history. He discovered the Serapeum of Saqqara, a network of dark, winding tunnels holding 24 colossal sarcophagi. These were not ordinary coffins, they were gargantuan boxes, each carved from a single solid block of the hardest stones known to man, granite and basalt. Weighing between 60 and 100 tons each, these monolithic behemoths were crafted with a degree of precision that seems utterly impossible for their time. The surfaces of these granite boxes are polished to a mirror-like finish, so smooth they seem to have been shaped by modern machinery. Their corners are flawlessly squared, and the massive lids, some weighing 30 tons alone, fit so perfectly onto their bases that it's impossible to slip even a thin sheet of paper between them. This airtight seal hints at a purpose far beyond a simple burial. The interior surfaces are just as perfect, with uniformly smooth walls suggesting a lost technology capable of hollowing out granite with unbelievable accuracy. Mainstream Egyptology tells us this was a necropolis for the sacred Apis bulls, animals revered as manifestations of the god Ptah. Upon their death, these bulls were mummified and given a ceremonial burial fit for a king. But this explanation collapses under the weight of the evidence. When Mariette and later researchers forced open these massive coffins, they found nearly all of them were completely empty. There were no signs of bull remains, no burial inscriptions, and none of the rich offerings typically found in Egyptian tombs. Why would an ancient civilization expend such extraordinary effort and resources, crafting boxes with a precision that surpasses even the tombs of the greatest pharaohs, just to bury an animal, only to leave them empty? The sheer perfection of the sarcophagi seems excessive for a purely ceremonial function, pointing to something far more significant. The logistical nightmare of their creation and placement is a mystery in itself. Granite is an exceptionally hard stone, notoriously difficult to work with, even using today's diamond-tipped power tools. How could artisans, supposedly equipped with only primitive copper chisels and stone mallets, carve and polish these multi-ton blocks with such geometric perfection? Evidence from other sites reveals tube drill holes and saw marks on granite that could only have been produced by high-speed machinery, a technology believed to be far beyond their reach. Even more baffling is how they transported these colossal objects. The raw blocks, weighing over 200 tons, would have been moved from quarries hundreds of miles away. Then, these finished 100-ton boxes were somehow maneuvered through the narrow, winding, and steep underground corridors of the Serapeum and positioned with pinpoint accuracy. This feat would challenge modern engineers, let alone ancient builders working in near-total darkness. Adding to the enigma, the tunnel walls bear no soot or burn marks from torches, suggesting they were illuminated by a method other than open flame. What source of light allowed them to carry out this incredibly precise work in the suffocating darkness deep beneath the desert? The official narrative simply does not add up, forcing us to consider more radical possibilities that challenge the conventional timeline of human history. Some researchers now speculate that the Serapeum had a technological purpose we are only beginning to comprehend. Could these perfectly sealed, precision-engineered boxes have been part of an ancient energy system designed for resonance or energy manipulation? Were they sophisticated storage containers built with airtight precision not for bodies, but to protect invaluable materials or even lost knowledge from the ravages of time? The granite boxes of Saqqara stand as a silent, powerful testament to a lost technology. They are relics of a past far more advanced than we have ever been told, evidence of a civilization with engineering capabilities that rival and perhaps even exceed our own. These objects were not just tombs, they are a profound and unsettling puzzle, challenging us to question everything we think we know about our ancestors. The Serapeum is not just an anomaly, it is a glimpse into the remnants of a forgotten science, daring us to uncover a truth that has been buried for millennia. Now we arrive at the heart of the enigma, the one place on Earth that has guarded its secrets more fiercely than any other, the Giza Plateau. Here, the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx stand not as tombs or monuments, but as the final, silent keepers of a truth that could change everything we know about ourselves. For centuries, we have been told that the Great Pyramid was a tomb built for the pharaoh Khufu. Yet this colossal structure, the last surviving wonder of the ancient world, has none of the features of a traditional Egyptian burial site. Despite centuries of exploration, no mummy, no elaborate treasures, and no definitive burial inscriptions have ever been found inside its cold, sterile chambers. It is a tomb with no body, a monument with no clear message, a perfect riddle in stone. This has led modern engineers to a radical and shocking theory. The Great Pyramid was not a tomb at all, it was a machine. They propose that its intricate passages, granite-lined chambers, and its precise placement on the Earth were designed to harness the planet's natural energies. According to this theory, the pyramid functioned as a massive water pump or even a generator, using subterranean water channels to create powerful vibrations and compression waves, potentially generating a form of wireless electricity. The original gleaming white limestone casing would have acted as an insulator, while its granite interior and golden capstone were functional components of this ancient power plant. And standing guard over this ancient machine is an even greater mystery, the Great Sphinx. Mainstream archaeology tells us this colossal statue was carved by the pharaoh Khafre around 2500 BCE. But the stone itself tells a different story. The body of the Sphinx is covered in deep, vertical erosion patterns, weathering that geologists argue could only have been caused by one thing: thousands of years of heavy rainfall. The problem is, it hasn't rained like that in Egypt for over 7,000 years. This geological evidence suggests the Sphinx is far older than the pharaohs, dating back to 10,000 BCE or even earlier. This would mean it was built by a forgotten pre-dynastic civilization, a lost culture that existed in a green, fertile Egypt at the end of the last ice age. The dynastic Egyptians would not have built the Sphinx. They would have found it, already ancient, a weathered relic from a golden age long past. This brings us to the ultimate prize of forbidden history, Modern seismic scans and ground-penetrating radar have confirmed the existence of large hollow chambers and tunnels hidden deep in the bedrock beneath the Sphinx's paws. Ancient legends and the prophecies of mystics like Edgar Cayce speak of this hidden space as the legendary Hall of Records, a secret library containing the complete history, science, and wisdom of a lost civilization, perhaps the survivors of Atlantis itself. Could this be the final answer? The key that unlocks every other mystery we've explored? Perhaps the Hall of Records contains the lost engineering manuals from Baalbek, the blueprints for the Antikythera Mechanism, and the true history of Göbekli Tepe. The Giza Plateau may be a single interconnected system, the pyramid its power source, the Sphinx its eternal guardian, and the Hall of Records its memory. The evidence is all around us, written in stone and buried beneath the sand. Our history is not what we have been told. We are a species with amnesia, living amongst the ruins of a past so magnificent and so advanced that its rediscovery would change the very fabric of our reality. The secrets are there, waiting for the day we are finally ready to understand them. What do you think? Is there a historical mystery that particularly captured your imagination? Which artifact sparked your curiosity the most? Share your thoughts, theories, or questions in the comments below. We love hearing from you. And if you enjoyed unraveling these historical puzzles with us, don't forget to subscribe for more journeys into the fascinating unknown. We have marveled at the impossible successes of the ancient world, the temples, the tombs, and the technologies that defy our understanding. But what can we learn from their failures? In a fiery red granite quarry in the south of Egypt, there lies a monument to their greatest ambition. A stone so colossal it broke its own back before it could ever be raised. This is the unfinished obelisk of Aswan, a testament to an ambition that even the pyramid builders could not fulfill. Believed to have been commissioned some 3,500 years ago by the powerful Queen Hatshepsut, this single obelisk was destined for the Great Karnak Temple. If it had been completed and erected, it would have been the single largest piece of stone ever quarried and moved in the ancient world. It would have stood over 41 meters tall, a monolithic giant weighing a staggering 1,200 tons, the equivalent of 200 adult elephants. But it was never finished. It lies there still, a silent giant forever fused to the bedrock from which it was being carved. And because it was abandoned mid-process, it has become a priceless Rosetta Stone for understanding how the ancient Egyptians worked with these impossible megaliths. It is a snapshot of their genius, frozen in time. The obelisk reveals the painstaking, almost brutal methods they employed. Archaeologists have found the very tools they used: dolerite pounders, grapefruit-sized balls of the stone even harder than granite. For years, teams of workers would have stood on the monument, relentlessly smashing these balls against the bedrock, slowly pulverizing the granite to carve out the obelisk's shape. It was a slow, grueling process, requiring immense patience and manpower. To finally separate the massive stone from the earth, they would have cut small pockets along its base, inserted massive wooden wedges, and then poured water over them. The wood would slowly expand with immense force, and, if all went according to plan, the 1,200-ton monolith would split from the bedrock with a clean, perfect crack. But for this obelisk, all did not go to plan. After countless man-hours of labor, as the monument was nearing completion, a catastrophic flaw was discovered. Several huge cracks appeared in the granite, rendering the entire project worthless. A dream of generations, an object of immense religious and political importance, was instantly transformed into a 1,200-ton piece of scrap, abandoned forever in the quarry. Yet, even if it hadn't cracked, an even greater mystery remains. How did they ever plan to move it? The logistics of lifting a 1,000-ton stone out of its pit, dragging it to the Nile, loading it onto a ship, and transporting it over 200 kilometers to Karnak are staggering. Theories suggest they would have used a massive barge and waited for the annual inundation of the Nile to lift the ship, but the engineering challenges of such an operation are almost beyond comprehension. Had Hatshepsut's ambition finally outstripped the legendary capabilities of her engineers? Was this colossal project doomed from the very start? The unfinished obelisk is more than a failed project. It is a monument to the sheer, breathtaking audacity of the ancient Egyptians. It reveals their methods, their power, and ultimately their limits. It lies there still, a silent testament to a dream that was too big even for the masters of the megalithic world, a powerful reminder that even the greatest civilizations can sometimes reach too far. For more than 2,000 years, the first emperor of China has been sleeping, protected by a silent, subterranean army and legends of deadly traps. Beneath a tranquil, man-made hill in Shanxi province, there lies a mausoleum so vast, so filled with treasure, and so lethally dangerous that the modern world has never dared to open it. This is the final resting place of Qin Shi Huang, the fearsome ruler who unified a nation, built the Great Wall, and became obsessed with conquering death itself. The scale of his tomb complex is almost beyond comprehension, spanning a staggering 56 square kilometers. Construction began when he was just a 13-year-old boy, and according to ancient records, it took a mobilized force of over 700,000 laborers decades to complete this monumental wonder. What they built was not just a tomb, but an entire underground empire designed to serve its master for all eternity. We have only seen a fraction of its splendor. The world was stunned in 1974 when local farmers accidentally unearthed the first figures of the now famous terracotta army. Since then, thousands of life-sized clay soldiers, war horses, and chariots have been excavated from surrounding pits, each standing in silent battle formation. These are not mass-produced statues. Every single warrior was crafted with meticulous, haunting detail. Their faces are unique, their armor is distinct, their expressions individualized, as if the souls of real soldiers were captured and frozen in clay for their emperor's eternal guard. But this incredible army is merely the outer defense. The true prize, the central tomb chamber holding the emperor himself, remains completely sealed, a forbidden zone that no archaeologist has ever entered. Our only guide to what lies within comes from the ancient historian Sima Qin, who wrote of an underground palace of unimaginable magnificence. He described a microcosm of Qin Shi Huang's entire kingdom, with palaces, officials, and priceless treasures buried to serve him in the afterlife. The ceiling of the tomb was said to be inlaid with precious pearls to recreate a perfect sky, mapping the constellations, the sun, and the moon to shine down on the emperor forever. But the most astonishing feature was the landscape. Sima Qin wrote of vast flowing rivers of liquid mercury, designed by mechanical pumps to run eternally, mimicking the great Yangtze and Yellow rivers of China. And to protect this subterranean world, the tomb was rigged with deadly traps. Automatic crossbows were set to fire upon any intruder who dared to disturb the emperor's slumber. To ensure these secrets were kept forever, a final, horrifying act was carried out. Legend says that after the tomb was sealed, the craftsmen and artisans who built it were trapped and buried alive inside, so that no one could ever reveal its entrance or its intricate defenses. For centuries, these accounts were dismissed as myths, but modern science has revealed a terrifying truth. Remote sensing surveys have confirmed that beneath the massive mound lies a complex, symmetrical underground structure, perfectly matching the ancient descriptions. Even more chilling, soil tests from the area have revealed abnormally high and, in some places, toxic concentrations of mercury, lending terrifying credence to the legend of the liquid rivers. The tomb is real, and it is just as dangerous as the stories claim. So why haven't we opened it? The answer is a mixture of scientific caution and profound cultural reverence. When the terracotta warriors were first exposed to the air, their vibrant, lifelike paint flaked off and vanished within minutes, a devastating loss of priceless historical data. Experts fear that opening the central tomb now, with our current preservation technology, would result in the permanent destruction of whatever fragile treasures lie inside, like ancient silks, texts, or other organic materials. Beyond that, the mercury poses a catastrophic environmental risk. Breaching the tomb could release a massive plume of toxic vapor, a chemical disaster on an epic scale. Finally, there is the deep spiritual belief that the tomb is sacred ground. In China, disturbing an emperor, especially the first emperor, is seen as a grave affront to the ancestors and to the nation itself. And so, the tomb of Qin Shi Huang remains untouched, a silent reminder of a past filled with unimaginable power and enduring mystery, guarding secrets the world may simply not be ready to face. We have journeyed through a world of forbidden history, witnessing impossible structures, forgotten technologies, and legends that defy time. But one question haunts every discovery: how could such profound knowledge have been lost? The answer may lie not in a hidden tomb or a sunken city, but in the ashes of a single building, the site of the greatest intellectual catastrophe in the history of humankind, the Great Library of Alexandria. Founded in the 3rd century BC by the Ptolemaic dynasty in Egypt, the Library of Alexandria was not merely a collection of books. It was the vibrant, beating heart of the ancient world. It was part of a grand institution known as the Museum, a temple to the Muses, where the greatest scholars, scientists, and poets of the age gathered to push the boundaries of human knowledge. This was the intellectual center of the planet, a beacon of light and learning unparalleled in history. The sheer scale of the knowledge housed within its walls is difficult to comprehend. Estimates suggest the library held between 200,000 and 700,000 papyrus scrolls, containing the works of Homer, Plato, and Aristotle, alongside countless texts from Greece, Persia, Egypt, and India. This was the intellectual center of the planet, a beacon of light and learning unparalleled in history. The sheer scale of the knowledge housed within its walls is difficult to comprehend. Estimates suggest the library held between 200,000 and 700,000 papyrus scrolls, containing the works of Homer, Plato, and Aristotle, alongside countless texts from Greece, Persia, Egypt, and India. This was the place where Euclid laid the foundations of geometry, where Archimedes invented world-changing creations, and where Eratosthenes calculated the circumference of the Earth with breathtaking precision, a feat not to be replicated for over 1,000 years. The library's hunger for knowledge was voracious. The Ptolemaic kings sent agents across the known world to purchase and collect manuscripts. They enacted a remarkable policy. Every ship that docked in Alexandria's harbor was to be searched, and any books found aboard were seized. The scrolls were taken to the library, painstakingly copied by scribes, and then the copy was returned to the owner, while the priceless original was kept for the library's collection. So, what destroyed this treasure trove of human genius? The popular story blames a single catastrophic fire, but the truth is far more complex and tragic. The library did not die in a day. It was murdered over centuries through neglect, war, and fanaticism. One of the first blows came in 48 BC, when Julius Caesar, during his war in the city, set fire to Egyptian ships in the port. The fire spread to the shore, destroying warehouses that may have contained as many as 40,000 scrolls. Centuries later, as the Roman Empire embraced a new religion, a wave of fanaticism saw pagan temples destroyed. This included the Serapeum in Alexandria, a sister temple that housed a magnificent daughter library to the main collection. The final, gradual decline was cemented by weakening political support, internal strife, and the fading of Alexandria as a cultural capital. The light of the ancient world did not go out in a flash. It was slowly and deliberately extinguished. The question that should haunt us all is not just how it was lost, but what was lost. This was one of the greatest intellectual disasters in history. We lost countless works of literature and history, but the true loss may be infinitely more profound. What if the library held more than just poems and plays? What if it contained the engineering manuals that explained how to move the 1,600-ton stones of Baalbek? What if it held the astronomical texts and blueprints for creating the Antikythera Mechanism? What if the scrolls contained the true history of Göbekli Tepe, the secrets of the Osirian's strange water, or the metallurgical formula for the indestructible Kailasa temple? What if the answers to every single mystery we have explored were all there, written down on papyrus, collected in one place, and then systematically destroyed, leaving us in the dark for 2 millennia? The destruction of the Library of Alexandria wasn't just the loss of books, it was the erasure of our own history. It created the very dark age it is said to have preceded. The knowledge of our true, advanced past was not lost by accident, it was burned, leaving us with only silent, impossible ruins as clues to a past we were never meant to forget. For over 1,000 years after the fall of Rome, the world was plunged into a technological dark age, losing the ability to create wonders it had once mastered. But what if the ancients had already reached a level of mechanical genius we thought was impossible until the clockmakers of the Renaissance? What if they had built a computer, not of silicon and code, but of bronze, gears, and celestial genius? Our story begins in the spring of 1900 when a team of Greek sponge divers was caught in a violent storm off the remote island of Antikythera. Seeking shelter, they stumbled upon an ancient Roman-era shipwreck, its treasures scattered across the seafloor. Among the marble statues and luxury goods pulled from the depths was a single, unassuming lump of corroded green bronze, dismissed by most as a worthless piece of scrap. For months, this lump sat in the National Archaeological Museum in Athens, forgotten and ignored. Then, one day, a piece of its calcified shell broke away, revealing something impossible inside: a network of impossibly small, intricate gears. The researchers were stunned. This was no simple artifact. It was a machine, deliberately engineered and astonishingly sophisticated. It was a ghost from a lost technological world. This device, now famously known as the Antikythera Mechanism, has been dated to between 150 and 100 BCE. After decades of study using advanced X-ray and 3D imaging, scientists have concluded it is the world's earliest known analog computer, an object of such mind-bending complexity that nothing like it would be seen again on Earth for another 1,500 years. Beneath its corroded exterior lay a universe of knowledge, an intricate system of over 30 interlocking bronze gears, some with teeth barely a millimeter wide, all crafted with the precision of a master watchmaker. This was no mere novelty. It was a fully functioning astronomical calculator of breathtaking power. By turning a single knob, the user could track the movements of the sun, the moon, and the 5 planets known to the ancient Greeks. The dials on its face marked the zodiac, the months of the year, and the phases of the moon. But its true genius lay in its predictive power. The mechanism was so advanced, it could accurately forecast solar and lunar eclipses down to the very hour. It even modeled the subtle irregularities in the moon's orbit, a complex astronomical phenomenon that required a profound grasp of mathematics and engineering to replicate mechanically. Another dial was a calendar for a distinctly human event. It calculated the 4-year cycle of the ancient Olympic Games, connecting the cosmos to culture. This single object completely rewrites what we thought was possible in the ancient world. While we know of the genius of thinkers like Archimedes, who lived in this era, no historical text ever described a machine of this sophistication. It is a technological orphan, the only one of its kind ever found. This raises a series of deeply unsettling questions. Who was the forgotten Da Vinci of ancient Greece who invented this masterpiece? Was this a unique creation, or were there hundreds of these ancient computers that have since been lost, their valuable bronze melted down for swords and cannons over the centuries? And most importantly, how did this incredible branch of human knowledge, the ability to create complex, geared machinery, completely vanish from the historical record? Why did it take humanity another 1,500 years to reinvent what the Greeks had already perfected? The Antikythera Mechanism is more than an artifact. It is a ghost from a forgotten scientific revolution. It is hard, undeniable proof that our ancestors possessed a level of technological and astronomical understanding far beyond what we have ever given them credit for. It is a single surviving fragment from a lost world of genius, a haunting reminder of the incredible knowledge that was lost to the darkness, leaving us to wonder what other ancient marvels still lie waiting in the silent depths of the sea. We think of nanotechnology as the cutting edge of 21st century science, the art of manipulating materials at the atomic level to create impossible new properties. But what if the ancient Romans had already mastered it 1,600 years ago? In a secure vault at the British Museum, there is a single elegant glass cup that holds the secret to a level of material science that would not be understood again until our own time. This is the Lycurgus cup. Crafted around the 4th century AD, the cup is a masterpiece of Roman glasswork, intricately carved with a scene from the myth of King Lycurgus, who dared to defy the god Dionysus. In normal, reflected light, when lit from the front, the cup appears a murky, opaque jade green. But the moment you shine a light through it from behind, an impossible transformation occurs. The entire cup begins to glow with a luminous, deep ruby red. This stunning, color-changing effect is known as dichroism, and the Lycurgus cup is the most spectacular ancient example ever found. For centuries, this magical property was a complete mystery. It was not until the 1990s when scientists were able to analyze a fragment under a powerful electron microscope that the secret was finally revealed. What they found was mind-boggling. The Roman glassmakers had somehow managed to infuse the glass with microscopic particles of gold and silver, each one just 50 nanometers in diameter, 1,000 times smaller than a single grain of salt. This is, by its very definition, nanotechnology. The precise size and mixture of these metallic nanoparticles are what cause the miraculous color change. They interact with light on a quantum level, scattering green light when it's reflected, but transmitting red light when it passes through. This means the Roman artisans were, whether by accident or by a forgotten stroke of genius, the world's first nanotechnologists. This discovery opens up a profound and unanswered question. How did they do it? To create nanoparticles of such a specific and uniform size and to disperse them perfectly throughout the molten glass would require an incredible level of control over materials and furnace temperatures. The recipe would have to be exact. It's a feat of material science so precise that many modern labs would struggle to replicate it. So, was it a 1 in a billion lucky accident? Did a fleck of gold and silver dust contaminate a single batch of glass, resulting in this unique masterpiece? This is possible, but seems unlikely, given the skill evident in the rest of the cup's creation. The other possibility is far more tantalizing, that this was the work of a forgotten genius, a master craftsman who had unlocked a deep empirical understanding of chemistry and physics, a secret that was then lost to the ages. The Lycurgus cup is a complete anomaly. While the Romans were brilliant glassmakers, creating beautiful objects in a spectrum of colors, no other artifact with this exact nanotechnology has survived in such a perfect state. It is a singular example of a technology that seemingly appeared from nowhere and then vanished from history for over a millennium and a half. The Lycurgus cup is more than a beautiful piece of Roman glass. It's a ghost from a lost scientific age. It is undeniable proof that the ancients had a mastery of the material world that we have only recently begun to rediscover. It forces us to ask, what other scientific secrets, what other forgotten technologies were mastered in the ancient world, only to be lost, leaving behind just a single color-changing cup as a clue? For generations, our textbooks have told us a simple, comfortable story about the dawn of civilization. First, our ancestors discovered agriculture, which allowed them to settle down into villages. From these stable communities, cities were born, and only then, with food and shelter secured, did they have the luxury to develop complex religion and build massive temples. In 1994, in the arid hills of southeastern Turkey, a German archaeologist named Klaus Schmidt unearthed a discovery so profound, so utterly world-shattering, that it took that comfortable story and burned it to the ground. For decades, the site had been known as a simple, unassuming hill, dismissed by many as nothing more than a medieval cemetery. But Schmidt saw something others had missed, hints of worked flint and limestone that whispered of a much deeper past. What he and his team gradually uncovered was not a settlement or a city, but something far older and more mysterious. Buried beneath the earth were massive, circular enclosures, defined by colossal T-shaped limestone pillars, each one rising up to 6 meters tall and weighing dozens of tons. The true shock came when the site was dated. Carbon dating revealed Göbekli Tepe to be over 11,000 years old. This number is so staggering it's difficult to comprehend. This structure was built 6,000 years before Stonehenge, 7,000 years before the Great Pyramids of Giza, and millennia before the invention of writing, pottery, or even the wheel. It is a relic from the dawn of our species, a time we thought was populated only by primitive, scattered tribes. This leads to the greatest paradox of all: who built it? The answer defies everything we thought we knew. The creators of Göbekli Tepe were hunter-gatherers. They were nomadic people, long believed to be incapable of the long-term planning, sophisticated social organization, and immense labor force required to quarry, transport, and erect such a monumental complex. Yet here was the undeniable proof, carved in tons of solid stone. These pillars were not crude stone slabs. They were intricately carved with a stunning menagerie of animals: lions, foxes, wild boar, snakes, and scorpions, all rendered with a startling degree of artistic sophistication. This was not the art of a primitive people. This was a complex and powerful symbolic language, a silent story etched into stone conveying a worldview and a set of beliefs we can now only guess at.
Klaus Schmidt came to believe this was not a place of habitation, but the world's very first temple, a sacred pilgrimage site, a cathedral on a hill for the people of the Stone Age. This single idea completely flips our origin story on its head. It suggests that the impulse for organized religion, the need to gather and worship, came before the invention of agriculture and settled life. In fact, the immense challenge of building Göbekli Tepe may have been the very catalyst that forced humanity to innovate. The need to feed the hundreds of workers required for such a project may have directly led to the cultivation of wild grains and the dawn of farming itself. As if the site wasn't mysterious enough, its final chapter is the most baffling of all. Around 8000 BC, after centuries of use, the ancient builders did something inexplicable. They deliberately and painstakingly buried their entire creation, covering the massive pillars and stone circles under thousands of tons of earth, as if to seal its secrets away from the world forever. This bizarre act of ritual burial is the very reason Göbekli Tepe remained so perfectly preserved for 10,000 years, waiting for us to find it. But why would they entomb their own sacred masterpiece? Were they protecting it from a coming catastrophe or hiding it from future generations? We may never know. Göbekli Tepe is more than an archaeological site. It is a rupture in the timeline of human history. It proves that our past is far deeper, stranger, and more complex than we ever dared to imagine. It is a silent reminder that there are entire chapters of the human story that have been lost, and makes us wonder how many more secrets still lie sleeping beneath the earth, waiting to be discovered. What if there was a place that is so precisely engineered that its ruins look like they were made with laser cutters and designed to interlock like pieces of a giant, complex puzzle? High in the Andes Mountains of Bolivia, at a breathless altitude of 13,000 feet, lies Puma Punku, a ruin that looks more like the scattered components of a machine than a temple. Located near the sprawling ancient complex of Tiwanaku, Puma Punku is a field of shattered megalithic blocks made from granite and diorite, two of the hardest and most difficult-to-work stones on the planet. What is immediately shocking about these ruins is not just their size, but their unbelievable precision. The stones feature perfectly straight edges, flawless right angles, and grooves so fine and razor-thin that they defy any explanation involving primitive tools. Some blocks are drilled with holes of perfect circularity, their lines so smooth they appear to have been cut by modern power tools. The most famous and baffling of these are the H-blocks. These are massive, complex stones, all cut to a uniform and standardized shape, featuring intricate interior angles and smooth, flat surfaces. They look exactly like modern, mass-produced interlocking building components, as if they came off an ancient assembly line. This level of standardization and modular design suggests a level of planning and technology that seems utterly alien to the ancient world. The official story credits the Tiwanaku civilization with building Puma Punku sometime between 500 and 1000 AD. But this explanation presents a paradox so profound it borders on the absurd. The Tiwanaku, as far as we know, lacked a written language, had not yet invented the wheel, and did not possess iron tools. How could a society without these fundamental technologies possibly achieve machine-like precision on some of the hardest stone on Earth? The logistical challenges are just as staggering. Some of the massive stone blocks weigh over 100 tons. The red sandstone was quarried from a site 10 miles away, while the even harder diorite was brought from a quarry over 50 miles away. How did they transport these multi-ton blocks across miles of treacherous mountain terrain and haul them up to a high-altitude plateau, all without the use of the wheel or powerful beasts of burden? The ruins themselves suggest that Puma Punku was not built in a conventional sense, it was assembled. The complex, interlocking shapes of the stones, particularly the H-blocks, indicate they were designed to fit together perfectly, creating stable, mortarless structures like a giant three-dimensional puzzle. This required a sophisticated understanding of mathematics, geometry, and engineering that seems completely out of place for the period. Then, around 1000 AD, this grand project came to a sudden and mysterious end. The Tiwanaku civilization inexplicably collapsed, leaving Puma Punku unfinished. Partially completed blocks and discarded tools lie scattered across the site, a silent testament to a construction that was abandoned in haste. What catastrophic event brought this advanced culture to its knees, silencing its incredible engineering knowledge forever? Puma Punku is not just a ruin, it is a collection of impossible artifacts that shatter our timeline of technological progress in the Americas. The stones are a silent testament to a level of engineering skill that simply should not have existed. It's another powerful piece of evidence suggesting a lost global civilization with a shared high technology, a culture whose signature can be found from Baalbek to Egypt to the high plains of Bolivia. The ruins challenge us to accept that the story of our past is far more complex and technologically advanced than we have ever been taught. If the precision of Saqqara challenges our understanding of ancient technology, then the megaliths of Baalbek in Lebanon obliterated entirely. Nestled in the Bekaa Valley, a historic crossroads of civilizations, this ancient site holds a secret that makes even the Great Pyramids seem like a solvable puzzle. What we see today are the majestic ruins of a Roman temple complex, but beneath these familiar columns lies a foundation so impossibly massive, so utterly defiant of history, that it forces us to question who or what truly built it. At the heart of this enigma is the legendary Temple of Jupiter, a structure the Romans erected in the 1st century AD. But the Romans didn't build on virgin ground. They built upon a platform constructed by a far older and infinitely more mysterious predecessor. The foundation of this temple is framed by 3 of the largest worked stones on the planet, known as the Trilithon. Each of these monolithic blocks is nearly 20 meters long, over 4 meters high, and weighs an estimated 800 tons. To put that into perspective, each single stone is the size of a modern passenger airliner, quarried, transported, and lifted into place with seamless precision. The official story credits the Romans with this monumental feat, but this explanation is not just flawed, it's impossible. There is absolutely no record of any Roman technology capable of lifting stones of such staggering mass. Roman engineering was formidable, yet their most powerful cranes could handle at most between 60 and 100 tons, a mere fraction of what was required at Baalbek. To move a single trilithon stone would have been beyond their wildest capabilities, let alone 3. The mystery deepens into sheer absurdity when you visit the ancient quarry, located just a short distance away. There, lying partially unearthed, are even larger blocks, seemingly abandoned mid-process. One of these is the famous Stone of the Pregnant Woman, a behemoth weighing nearly 1,000 tons. Nearby lies another block weighing over 1,200 tons. And in 2014, archaeologists uncovered the largest of them all, a single, perfectly cut block weighing an unbelievable 1,650 tons, the largest quarried stone ever discovered in the history of humankind. These were not accidents. These stones prove that the builders of the Baalbek Foundation not only moved 800-ton blocks, but they fully intended to move blocks twice that size. How? Theories proposing the use of wooden rollers and earthen ramps crumble under the sheer physics of the problem. The logistics of moving a 1,650-ton block defy any conventional explanation. This has led many scholars to a shocking but logical conclusion. The foundation of Baalbek was not built by the Romans. It predates them, perhaps by thousands of years, and is the work of a lost civilization with a mastery of engineering and technology that has since vanished from the earth. The stones themselves are the only evidence that remains, silent witnesses to an impossible accomplishment. They show an undeniable link to other megalithic wonders around the globe, from the impossible stonework of Puma Punku in Peru to the Great Pyramids of Egypt. Was there a global, prehistoric civilization of master builders whose legacy has been misattributed to later, less capable cultures? The creators of Baalbek left no inscriptions, no tools, and no records describing how they achieved this superhuman feat. All we have are the stones themselves, defying the passage of time and resisting every attempt by modern humanity to explain them away. Baalbek is more than just a historical site. It is a direct challenge to the established timeline of human civilization. It forces us to confront the uncomfortable possibility that our history is not a simple, linear progression of knowledge. It suggests that great technological heights were reached in the distant past, only to be lost in a forgotten cataclysm, leaving behind only these mountain-sized clues that we are only now beginning to question. While Egypt was building its pyramids and Mesopotamia was writing the first laws, a third, equally magnificent civilization flourished in relative obscurity. This was the Indus Valley Civilization, a vast empire of stunningly advanced cities that was, at its peak, the largest and most populous of the ancient world. They were masters of urban planning and trade, and then, in one of history's greatest vanishing acts, they simply disappeared. For nearly 4,000 years, their existence was completely forgotten, their story erased from the memory of humanity. Their rediscovery was a complete accident. In the 1850s, British engineers building a railway across modern-day Pakistan stumbled upon the ruins of an ancient city, its buildings made of millions of strangely uniform, well-crafted bricks. Seeing them as little more than a convenient source of ballast, they unknowingly dismantled a piece of a lost world to lay the foundations for the new one. It wasn't until the 1920s that archaeologists began systematic excavations, and the true scale of what had been lost was finally revealed. They had uncovered Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, twin metropolises of a civilization more advanced than anyone had dared to imagine. These were not primitive settlements, they were masterpieces of urban design. The streets were laid out in a perfect grid, with main roads intersecting at precise right angles, a level of organization that would not be seen again in many parts of the world for thousands of years. Their infrastructure was nothing short of revolutionary. The cities boasted an advanced city-wide drainage system, with covered drains running along the main streets and smaller channels connecting from individual homes. Many houses, even modest ones, had their own private wells and bathrooms, a focus on public health and sanitation that was unparalleled in the ancient world. At the heart of Mohenjo-Daro stood the Great Bath, a massive, watertight public pool meticulously constructed, likely for religious purification rituals. It was a symbol of a society that valued cleanliness, order, and communal life. This was a culture of incredible sophistication, with a complex economy built on both local and long-distance trade, evidenced by thousands of beautifully carved seals and standardized weights. But perhaps their greatest mystery is their writing. The Indus people developed a unique and complex script found on thousands of artifacts that to this day remains completely undeciphered. The voice of this entire civilization, their history, their beliefs, their stories, is forever silenced, a library of lost knowledge we can see but never read. Then, around 1900 BCE, after centuries of prosperity, it all came to an end. The bustling cities were abandoned, the trade routes fell silent, and the people seemingly vanished, fading into the mists of time. Why? For decades, scholars believed a dramatic invasion by nomadic Aryan tribes had brought the civilization to a violent end. Yet, the lack of archaeological evidence for widespread warfare has led researchers to a more terrifying conclusion. The Indus Valley civilization was not murdered by an invader. It was killed by the planet itself. Evidence now suggests that a dramatic shift in climate patterns occurred around this time. The once reliable monsoon rains, the lifeblood of their agricultural society, became erratic and weak, leading to prolonged droughts and catastrophic famine. At the same time, tectonic shifts may have caused the great rivers that fed their cities to change course, leaving once thriving hubs of trade and culture stranded in an arid, unforgiving wasteland. It was not a sudden collapse, but a slow, agonizing death. A perfect storm of environmental catastrophe that brought one of the world's most brilliant early civilizations to its knees. The Indus Valley civilization is a haunting cautionary tale. They were masters of engineering, yet they were ultimately powerless against the slow, creeping forces of a changing world. Their silent, empty cities stand as a stark reminder that even the greatest empires can be erased from existence, leaving behind only ruins as a warning across the millennia. History is filled with legends of sunken lands, of advanced civilizations swallowed by the sea. We call it Atlantis, a name that has become a synonym for myth. But what if the greatest of these lost worlds was not a myth at all? What if a vast, fertile kingdom, the true heart of Stone Age Europe, now lies in the cold, dark depths of the North Sea, a world that was erased from existence by a cataclysmic flood? This is the story of Doggerland. 10,000 years ago, the world looked very different. The North Sea was not an endless expanse of water, but a massive, rolling landscape of hills, valleys, and dense forests that connected what is now Great Britain to continental Europe. This was not a barren, icy wasteland. It was a vibrant and resource-rich paradise, a Mesolithic Eden where hunter-gatherer societies thrived. They hunted mammoths and red deer, fished in its lakes and rivers, and foraged for berries and nuts. For centuries, this lost world was known only to the fishermen who trawled the North Sea. In their nets, they would often haul up strange and ancient objects: massive mammoth tusks, the bones of extinct animals, and even primitive flint tools and harpoons. They were pulling up relics from a drowned civilization, though they did not know it at the time. The end of Doggerland was not a single event, but a slow, agonizing death that lasted for centuries. As the last ice age ended and the great glaciers melted, sea levels began to rise. Year after year, the water crept higher, slowly encroaching on the lowlands of Doggerland, swallowing its coastline and forcing its people to higher ground. It was a climate catastrophe playing out in slow motion. Then came the final devastating blow. Around 8,200 years ago, a colossal submarine landslide off the coast of Norway, known as the Storegga Slide, triggered a massive tsunami. A gigantic wall of water, moving at hundreds of miles per hour, would have swept across the last remaining islands of Doggerland. It was a cataclysm of unimaginable proportions, wiping out the last remnants of its population and submerging their world forever beneath the waves, erasing it from the map and from human memory. For millennia, Doggerland was forgotten. Then, in the 20th century, as oil and gas companies began using advanced seismic surveys to map the seabed, they inadvertently rediscovered this lost continent. Their data revealed a stunningly detailed picture of a submerged world, complete with the outlines of ancient riverbeds, lakes, and coastlines. Archaeologists could now see the world our ancestors lost. This sunken land is the true Atlantis of Europe. While it may not be Plato's legendary city, it is undeniable proof that the myth of a sophisticated civilization being wiped out by a great flood is not just a story. It is a deeply ingrained human memory, a trauma passed down through generations, a fragmented echo of real-world disasters like the one that destroyed Doggerland. Today, Doggerland is more than a geological curiosity. It is a ghost continent, a lost chapter of human history that is slowly being brought back to light. researchers continue to pull artifacts from the seabed, fossilized footprints, tools, and even human remains. They are mapping its sunken forests and searching for the traces of its lost settlements. This is a haunting reminder of our own fragility in the face of nature's power, a warning from the deep past about the very real threat of rising sea levels. We are searching for the echoes of our own ancestors, whose world was swallowed by the waves, leaving behind only a story that was, until now, forgotten. For 2,000 years, the face of one of history's most influential figures has been a matter of artistic interpretation and faith. But what if a single object, a simple linen burial cloth, holds his true, ghostly image, a photographic negative imprinted by a moment of divine power? This is the story of the Shroud of Turin, an artifact that is either the most sacred relic in Christianity or the most brilliant and inexplicable hoax ever created. The shroud is a long, rectangular linen cloth, measuring over 4 meters, that has been preserved for centuries. Upon its surface is the faint, sepia-toned, front and back image of a crucified man. The image is hauntingly detailed, showing a bearded figure with markings that are shockingly consistent with the biblical accounts of Jesus' crucifixion. There are wounds on the wrists and feet where nails would have been driven, dozens of marks consistent with scourging, and trickles of blood on the forehead from a crown of thorns. For believers, this is nothing less than the authentic burial cloth of Christ, bearing the miraculous imprint of his body. For centuries, it was an object of veneration, but its true mystery was not unlocked until 1898. An amateur photographer named Secondo Pia was given permission to take the first ever photograph of the shroud. As he developed the glass plate negative in his darkroom, he stared in utter shock. From the faint, ghostly markings on the cloth, a clear, detailed, and startlingly realistic human portrait emerged in the negative image. The shroud itself was a photographic negative. This single discovery transformed the relic into a scientific enigma, launching a century of intense debate that rages to this day. The greatest challenge to the shroud's authenticity came in 1988, when the Vatican authorized radiocarbon dating tests on a small sample of the cloth. 3 of the world's most prestigious laboratories conducted the analysis, and their results were unanimous and devastating. The linen of the Shroud of Turin dated not to the time of Christ, but to the Middle Ages, somewhere between 1260 and 1390 AD. The verdict seemed clear. The shroud was a masterful medieval forgery. But the story does not end there. Proponents of the shroud's authenticity have fiercely challenged the carbon dating results. They argue that the tiny sample taken for the test was cut from a corner of the cloth that had been expertly rewoven by medieval nuns to repair damage from a fire. If true, the labs would have dated a medieval patch, not the original cloth. Others propose that centuries of contamination from smoke, water, and bacteria could have added new carbon to the linen, skewing the results and making the cloth appear thousands of years younger than it truly is. This debate leaves us with the central, unsolvable mystery: the image itself. If the shroud is a medieval forgery, who was the master artist who created it? And how did they do it? This is a question that science, for all its power, has been utterly unable to answer. Intensive analysis using modern spectroscopy and microscopy has failed to find any trace of paint, pigment, dye, or any other artistic substance on the cloth. The image is not a painting. The image has bizarre, almost supernatural properties. It is incredibly superficial, affecting only the topmost microfibers of the linen threads, with no soak-through to the fabric below. Furthermore, the image contains 3-dimensional information, encoded in its light and dark areas. Scientists were able to use this data to create a perfect 3D model of the man in the cloth, a feat impossible with a simple painting or drawing. No known artistic technique, ancient or modern, can replicate all of these unique properties. This has led some researchers to propose a radical theory, that the image was burned onto the cloth by a brief, intense burst of radiation or light that emanated from the body itself. It is a scientific explanation for what believers claim was a miraculous event, the moment of the resurrection. The Shroud of Turin remains a perfect paradox, an object that sits at the volatile crossroads of faith and science. Science says it's a medieval fake, yet science cannot explain how it was made. It is an artifact that defies explanation, a silent, ghostly photograph that challenges our understanding of art, science, and the very possibility of miracles.
What if the greatest lost knowledge of our ancestors was not destroyed in a fire, but was simply hidden in plain sight, written in a language that no human on Earth can read? In a climate-controlled vault at Yale University lies a medieval book that has defied every codebreaker, linguist, and supercomputer for over a century. This is the Voynich Manuscript, a text that is either the key to a lost world of knowledge or the most brilliant and elaborate hoax ever created. Radiocarbon dated to the early 15th century, the manuscript is a modest, 240-page book written on vellum. But from the moment you open it, you are plunged into a world that is bizarre, beautiful, and utterly alien. Its pages are filled with hundreds of strange and elegant illustrations, but they depict a world that does not seem to be our own. There are sections filled with drawings of plants, but they are species that no botanist has ever been able to identify. They look plausible, yet they exist nowhere on Earth. Other pages are filled with intricate astronomical charts, zodiacs with unfamiliar symbols, and celestial diagrams that do not seem to map our sky. But the most baffling section contains elaborate drawings of small, naked figures, mostly women, bathing and interacting within complex interconnected networks of green pipes and pools. Are these bizarre plumbing diagrams representing a biological process, an alchemical secret, or something else entirely? But the true mystery, the one that has driven researchers to madness, is the text itself. The entire book is written in a graceful, flowing script, composed of characters that have never been seen in any other document. This language, nicknamed Voynichese, appears to be real. It follows consistent linguistic rules, with recurring words, a defined grammar, and a statistical structure that mirrors natural languages. It is clearly not random gibberish. Yet, it is a language that no one can read. The world's greatest cryptographers, from the master codebreakers who deciphered enemy messages in World War II to the most powerful artificial intelligence algorithms of today, have all been thrown against the Voynich Manuscript. Every single one of them has failed. No one has ever been able to decipher a single, solitary word. This has led to a storm of theories. Is it the last surviving text of a lost language? A culture whose voice has been completely erased from history? Or is it an unbreakable code, a known language like Latin or Hebrew, hidden behind a cipher so complex and ingenious that it has remained impenetrable for 600 years? If so, what secrets does it hide that would warrant such incredible protection? Is it a book of forbidden alchemy, a text of heretical religious ideas, or a manual of forgotten medical knowledge? The most skeptical theory is that it is all just an elaborate hoax, a meaningless but beautifully crafted object designed to fool a wealthy collector in the Renaissance. But the sheer effort and linguistic sophistication required to create a text with such complex and consistent patterns seems far too great for a simple prank. Why would anyone dedicate years of their life to creating a masterpiece of nonsense? The Voynich Manuscript is more than an old book. It's a locked-room mystery from the past. It is a message in a bottle written in the language of a ghost.
Whether it contains the lost secrets of the universe, or is simply the beautiful, unreadable creation of a medieval genius, it remains a powerful symbol of the ultimate forbidden history, a story written down for all to see, but understood by no one. Deep within the silent, hallowed archives of Sweden's National Library lies a book so large, so heavy, and so haunted by a dark legend that it is known by another name, the Devil's Bible. This is the Codex Gigas, the largest surviving medieval manuscript in the world, an object whose creation story is so terrifying it has been whispered in fear for nearly 800 years. For this is not a book said to be inspired by God, but one written with the help of the devil himself. The physical book is a true behemoth. Measuring nearly a meter tall and weighing 75 kilograms, it is so massive that it requires 2 people to even lift it. Its 620 pages were crafted from the skins of over 160 animals, a monumental undertaking that would have required immense resources and decades of labor in the 13th century. It contains the entire Latin Bible, alongside historical chronicles, medical texts, and encyclopedic knowledge. But it is the book's origin story and a single horrifying image hidden within its pages that has sealed its infamous legacy. According to the legend, the Codex Gigas was the work of a single Benedictine monk in Bohemia. This monk had committed a terrible crime, breaking his sacred vows, and for his sin, he was sentenced to the most horrifying punishment of the Middle Ages, to be walled up alive, left to starve to death in a brick tomb. In a desperate plea for his life, the condemned monk made an impossible promise. He swore that if they spared him for a single night, he would produce a manuscript containing all human knowledge, a book so magnificent it would bring eternal glory to the monastery. The task was impossible for any mortal, and as midnight approached, the monk knew he was doomed. In his terror, he made one final prayer, not to God, but to the devil. Legend says that Satan himself appeared, and a pact was made. The devil would complete the impossible book in a single night, and in exchange, the monk would surrender his soul. In gratitude for this demonic assistance, the monk added one final touch to the manuscript, a gigantic, full-page portrait of his unholy savior. This chilling illustration is what gives the book its name. It is a terrifying 50-centimeter-tall depiction of the devil, with glowing eyes, a forked red tongue, and razor-sharp claws, a demonic image unlike anything ever seen in any other biblical text on Earth. While modern scholars dismiss the legend, analysis of the book reveals a mystery that is almost as strange. Experts believe the book was indeed written by a single scribe, but not in one night. It was likely a lifetime's work, taking an estimated 20 to 30 years to complete. Yet the handwriting, the ink, and the style are perfectly, impossibly consistent across every single page. It appears as if it were written in a single, continuous effort, without the natural variations that would occur from aging, sickness, or a change in tools over decades. This superhuman consistency is what keeps the dark legend alive. The book's contents only add to its mystique. Alongside the Holy Scriptures are texts on magic, spells for exorcising evil spirits, and even detailed catalogs of demons. It is a bizarre and contradictory collection of the sacred and the profane, a Bible that seems to contain the very darkness it warns against. Over the centuries, the Codex Gigas has gained a reputation for being cursed. It has witnessed countless upheavals, was seized as a prize during the 30 Years' War, and was taken to Sweden, where it remains today. Tales abound of disaster, disease, and war befalling those who possess it. It even survived a devastating fire at the royal castle, supposedly thrown from a window by a panicked librarian, its massive weight causing it to crash to the ground below. Today, the Codex Gigas remains one of history's most haunting enigmas. Was it the obsessive, lifelong work of a uniquely dedicated monk? Or is the chilling legend of its creation a warning, a hint at a truth far darker than we can imagine? The book guards its secrets jealously, a symbol of humanity's endless quest to understand forbidden knowledge and the terrifying price that might be paid to obtain it. Sometimes, the greatest secrets in history are not found by learned archaeologists in the tombs of kings, but by a shepherd boy looking for a lost goat. In 1947, a stone thrown into a dark cave in the Judean desert shattered a clay jar, and in doing so, it shattered our modern understanding of the world's most influential book. This was the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls, a library from the time of Christ that had been sealed in darkness for 2,000 years. What the Bedouin shepherd had stumbled upon was a miracle. Inside the cave, and in 10 other caves discovered nearby, were nearly 1,000 ancient manuscripts, some wrapped in linen and sealed in clay jars, others simply lying in fragments on the cave floor. When scholars began to piece them together, they realized they were looking at a collection of texts that were 1,000 years older than any previously known copy of the Hebrew Bible. It was a direct window into the world that gave birth to both modern Judaism and Christianity. The scrolls are a priceless treasure. They contain copies of nearly every book of the Old Testament, and their text is astonishingly similar to the versions we have today, proving the incredible care with which the scriptures were preserved over a millennium of copying. But they also contain other, stranger texts, the secret writings of a mysterious Jewish sect, with titles like the Community Rule and the War Scroll, which describes a final apocalyptic battle between the sons of light and the sons of darkness. But who were these people, and why did they hide their sacred library in the desert? The leading theory is that the scrolls were the work of the Essenes, an ascetic, monastic community who lived a life of purity and devotion at Qumran near the caves. They may have hidden their library in anticipation of the Roman army, which would go on to destroy Jerusalem and its great temple in 70 AD, a cataclysm that would change the course of Western history. They were preserving their knowledge for a future they would not live to see. But among the 981 manuscripts, there was one that was unlike any other. It was not written on fragile parchment or papyrus. It was etched into a single sheet of pure copper. And when it was painstakingly unrolled, researchers discovered it was not a religious text at all. It was a treasure map. The Copper Scroll is one of history's most tantalizing and frustrating enigmas. It lists 64 locations throughout the Judean wilderness where a staggering treasure of gold and silver is hidden. The quantities it describes are immense, tons of precious metal, enough to make it one of the largest lost treasures in the world. But the descriptions of the locations are cryptic, written for someone who already knew the landscape intimately, with landmarks like the aqueduct, the cistern, or the tomb. Is the treasure real? Some believe it was the legendary treasure of the Second Temple in Jerusalem, spirited away and hidden in the desert just before the Romans could capture it. Others argue it is a work of fiction, a symbolic map of spiritual treasures, not a literal guide to gold. For decades, treasure hunters and archaeologists have scoured the desert, following the scroll's cryptic clues. To this day, not a single ounce of the treasure has ever been found. The Dead Sea Scrolls are a time capsule from one of the most pivotal moments in human history. They are a testament to a community desperate to preserve its sacred knowledge in the face of annihilation. But with the lost history of the Essenes and the unfound treasure of the Copper Scroll, they are also a profound mystery, a reminder that the desert still holds its secrets, and that some of the greatest treasures are not made of gold, but are written on fragile, ancient scrolls. In the 16th century, at the height of the Age of Discovery, European explorers like Columbus and Magellan were hailed as pioneers, the first to brave the unknown oceans and chart the edges of the world. But what if they weren't the first? Deep within the archives of the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul, a single, surviving fragment of a map was discovered in 1929, a map that suggests a far older and far more advanced civilization had already mapped the entire planet. This is the famous Piri Reis map, drawn on gazelle skin parchment in 1513 by an Ottoman admiral and master cartographer. At first glance, it is a work of stunning beauty and skill, showing the western coasts of Europe and Africa and the eastern coast of South America, with a degree of accuracy that was, for its time, astonishing. In some areas, its precision rivaled or even surpassed the best maps produced by contemporary European explorers, raising immediate questions about the admiral's sources. Piri Reis himself provided a clue in the notes written on the map's margin. He openly stated that this was not his own original work, but a compilation, a grand synthesis of more than 20 older source maps he had collected. He claimed some of these charts had been captured from Spanish ships and once belonged to Christopher Columbus himself, while others, he alleged, dated all the way back to the era of Alexander the Great. Today, every single one of these ancient source maps has vanished from history, leaving only the Piri Reis map as the sole inheritor of their lost knowledge. But it is the map's southern edge that transforms it from a historical curiosity into an artifact that defies all logical explanation. There, extending from the coast of South America, is a landmass that many researchers believe is the continent of Antarctica. This detail is utterly impossible. The continent of Antarctica was not officially discovered by modern explorers until 1820, more than 300 years after Piri Reis created his map. The mystery deepens into the surreal. The map does not show Antarctica as we know it today, a continent buried under miles of solid ice. Instead, it appears to depict the northern coastline of Antarctica free of ice, showing the bays, rivers, and mountain ranges of the landmass itself. This is a geographical feature that modern humanity was unable to chart until the 20th century, using advanced ground-penetrating radar and seismic echo-sounding technology. How could a 16th century Ottoman admiral have known the subglacial topography of a continent that had been covered in ice for thousands of years? Skeptics have argued that the landmass is simply a distorted and speculative rendering of the South American coastline, an error made while compiling different charts. But the uncanny resemblance of its features to the true ice-free coast of Queen Maud Land, combined with the stunning accuracy of the map's other sections, makes this explanation seem woefully inadequate. The map appears to show something that no one in the 16th century should have been able to see. This has led to a far more radical and explosive theory, that the Piri Reis map is the last remnant of a forgotten chapter of human history. It suggests the existence of an ancient, highly advanced seafaring civilization that possessed a complete knowledge of global geography long before the last ice age. This lost civilization would have charted the coast of Antarctica when it was still temperate and green, before the ice caps consumed it. Their knowledge would have been passed down through the millennia, copied from map to map, until one last, degraded fragment found its way into the hands of Piri Reis. This single piece of parchment could be the only surviving evidence of their existence, a ghost of a global map created by a people erased from our memory. The Piri Reis map is not just an old chart. It is a riddle that challenges the entire timeline of human exploration and knowledge. It is a powerful piece of evidence suggesting that the story we tell ourselves about our past is incomplete, and that a far more advanced understanding of our own planet lies buried in the mists of time.
History is not always found in remote deserts or forgotten jungles. Sometimes it lies sleeping just a few feet beneath our busiest city streets, waiting for an accidental shovel to break its silence.
In the summer of 2018, in the bustling city of Alexandria, Egypt, construction workers digging the foundation for a new apartment building hit something massive. It was a solid, unyielding object of pure black granite, something that had been waiting in the darkness for over 2,000 years. Archaeologists were immediately summoned, and what they unearthed sparked a global media frenzy. It was a colossal sarcophagus, nearly 3 meters long and weighing an estimated 30 tons, the largest ever discovered in the city. It was carved from a single block of rare black granite, a stone that would have been quarried in Aswan, hundreds of miles to the south, and transported at an unimaginable cost. This was a coffin fit for an emperor. But the sarcophagus was a complete enigma. Unlike the ornate coffins of pharaohs and nobles, which are covered in hieroglyphs detailing names, titles, and achievements, this black monolith was completely bare. Its surface was stark, anonymous, and sealed with a layer of mortar that had remained unbroken for 2 millennia. This absolute secrecy only fueled the speculation. Who was buried here, in such a magnificent coffin, whose identity had to be completely erased from history? The world erupted with theories. Could this finally be the legendary lost tomb of Alexander the Great, the founder of the city, whose final resting place remains one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries? Or perhaps it held a powerful political figure, a rival to the Ptolemaic dynasty, whose memory was so dangerous it had to be hidden from the world. The story took a darker turn as the media began to whisper of a curse. Tabloids warned that opening the sealed sarcophagus could unleash a terrible plague, a dormant ancient evil upon the world. The frenzy reached such a peak that thousands of people signed online petitions, some begging the authorities to open it, while others pleaded for it to remain sealed forever. Finally, the day came. With the world's media watching, a team of Egyptian archaeologists and engineers surrounded the 30-ton behemoth. Using heavy lifting equipment, they slowly, carefully pried the 15-ton lid from its base. As the lid lifted, a foul, overpowering stench billowed out, forcing the onlookers back. The curse, it seemed, was just the horrifying smell of 2,000-year-old sewage. Inside, there was no golden-masked king, no priceless treasure, and no sign of Alexander the Great. The sarcophagus was filled with a thick, reddish-brown liquid, sewage that had seeped in from a nearby trench over the centuries. And floating in this grotesque sludge were the skeletal remains of 3 individuals, 2 men and a woman, unceremoniously stacked on top of each other. The world's great mystery had ended in a seemingly mundane and rather disgusting anticlimax. But the true enigma had only just begun. Forensic analysis revealed the skeletons were likely those of soldiers from the early Ptolemaic era, around the 3rd century BCE, and one of the skulls showed evidence of a violent death. This made the puzzle even more confusing. Why would 3 ordinary individuals be buried together in a sarcophagus of such immense cost and prestige? The black granite was a luxury reserved for the highest echelons of society. The sheer effort of carving and transporting this 30-ton coffin would have been a monumental undertaking. Why was this kingly burial given to 3 anonymous people, only to be buried without a single marking to remember their names? The black sarcophagus is a modern parable. The world hoped for a lost king but found forgotten soldiers. Yet the mystery did not end, it only deepened. It is a paradox, a royal burial without a royal, an immense treasure whose only contents were the unknown dead. It is a powerful reminder that not all of history's great secrets belong to the famous, and that some of the most profound puzzles are hidden in the anonymous graves that lie just beneath our feet. We think of building as an act of creation, of starting from the ground and reaching for the sky. But what if an ancient civilization possessed a technology so advanced they did the exact opposite? In the heart of India, Nestled within the Ellora Cave Complex, stands a monument so breathtakingly impossible it seems to defy the very laws of physics and history. This is the Kailasa Temple, a structure that was not built up but was carved down from a single solid mountain. This is the largest monolithic structure on the entire planet. Spanning an area twice the size of the Parthenon in Athens, the temple stands over 30 meters high, a sprawling complex of courtyards, bridges, and halls, all carved seamlessly from one piece of basalt rock. To create it, ancient builders started at the mountaintop and painstakingly chiseled their way downwards, a technique that is not only unconventional but borderline insane. There is no margin for error in this method. One wrong cut, one miscalculation, and the entire multi-generational project would be ruined. To achieve this feat, an estimated 400,000 tons of solid rock were excavated and carried away from the site. Mainstream history tells us this was accomplished in the 8th century, using nothing more than simple hand tools, hammers, chisels, and picks. But it's the timeline that pushes this story from the realm of the incredible into the outright impossible. According to historical estimates, this entire monumental undertaking was completed in a staggering 18 years. Let's break down that number. To remove 400,000 tons of rock in 18 years, workers would have had to excavate roughly 60 tons of rock every single day. With simple hand tools, that equates to removing 2.5 tons of hard basalt rock every hour, 24 hours a day, for 18 straight years without a single break. This pace is unfathomable. It would be a monumental challenge even for our modern construction crews equipped with power tools and explosives. To suggest it was done by hand is to suggest a miracle. And this was not just a crude excavation. Every inch of the Kailasa Temple is a masterpiece of art, covered in unbelievably intricate carvings. The stone walls depict epic tales from Hindu mythology, featuring the gods Shiva and Vishnu. And one of the most outstanding reliefs in all of Indian art shows the demon king Ravana attempting to lift Mount Kailasa, the abode of Shiva. Archaeologists have even discovered more than 30 million Sanskrit characters carved into the rock, the vast majority of which remain untranslated to this day. What lost knowledge or forgotten history is encoded in these silent inscriptions? The sheer impossibility of its construction has forced researchers to look beyond the accepted narrative. Could the Kailasa Temple be far older than we think, the legacy of a forgotten, technologically superior civilization? The precision of the cuts and the presence of what appear to be drill marks on the stone have led some to speculate about the use of advanced, unknown technologies, perhaps tools that could liquefy or soften stone. How else could such a feat be accomplished with such speed and artistry? The temple's durability is as legendary as its creation. In the 17th century, the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb, determined to erase this powerful symbol of Hindu faith, ordered 1,000 men to demolish the temple. For 3 years they toiled, but the incredible hardness of the basalt rock resisted their every effort. They succeeded only in making a few scratches and breaking some smaller statues before giving up completely. The temple that was carved like a sculpture proved to be as indestructible as the mountain it came from. The Kailasa Temple is more than a place of worship. It is a paradox written in stone. It is a monument that should not exist, a feat of engineering that defies its own historical context. It forces us to confront a deeply unsettling question. Are we looking at the work of devoted ancient laborers, or are we witnessing the handiwork of a civilization whose power and knowledge have been utterly erased from time? In 1992, in a quiet village in China's Zhejiang province, a local farmer named Wu Anai decided to do something about the large, stagnant ponds near his home. He believed they were nothing more than deep pools of water, and with a few neighbors, he bought a water pump and set out to drain the first one, intending to use the area for a better purpose. For 17 days they pumped, and as the water level dropped, they did not find the flat, muddy bottom they expected. Instead, they found themselves staring down into the entrance of a colossal, perfectly carved, man-made cavern. What they had stumbled upon is now known as the Longyou Caves, a massive subterranean complex that represents one of the greatest archaeological mysteries on Earth. This was not a single cavern. As the villagers excitedly drained the other nearby ponds, they discovered a network of more than 20 interconnected grottos, an entire underground city carved from solid siltstone. The scale is staggering. Each cave rises more than 30 meters high, with a total excavated area covering thousands of square meters. But it is the details that are truly impossible. The walls, ceilings, and support pillars have all been sculpted with a flawless, uniform finish. Every single surface, from the floor to the domed ceilings, is covered with identical, parallel chiseled lines, running in unbroken patterns as if carved by a single, gigantic machine. The engineering is breathtakingly precise, with straight walls, sharp corners, and pillars laid out in perfect harmony. Archaeologists, based on geological factors, estimate that the complex could be over 2,000 years old, dating back to the Qin dynasty or even earlier. This presents a mind-shattering paradox. Despite the monumental effort required to create this underground world, an estimated 1 million cubic meters of rock were removed, there is not a single solitary mention of its existence in any historical record. No text, no chronicle, no local legend speaks of its construction. It is a wonder of the ancient world that history completely forgot. The mystery deepens when you consider what wasn't found in the caves. After being sealed by water for centuries, archaeologists found no human remains, no tools, no artifacts, and no sign that anyone had ever lived or worked there. There was nothing to indicate who built this place or why. How could such a massive undertaking, which would have required an immense workforce and years of labor, vanish so completely from the historical and archaeological record? Dozens of theories have been proposed, but each one leads to more unanswered questions. Some suggest the caves were ancient granaries or secret military shelters, but their incredible size and artistry seem far too elaborate for such practical purposes. Others propose they were forgotten royal tombs or a secret ceremonial center. Yet the complete lack of any artifacts or burial goods makes these theories unlikely. The most striking feature remains the perfectly uniform chisel marks that cover every surface. They suggest the entire project was executed under a single, unified plan, using skills and techniques that far exceed the known standards of any ancient civilization. The precision seems to defy the use of simple hand tools, leading to speculation about lost construction methods and forgotten technologies. Today, the Longyou Caves lie silent, a testament to the creative power and enduring mysteries of those who came before us. They are a colossal question mark carved into the very bedrock of the Earth. Who built this impossible underground city? Why did they build it with such incredible precision and artistry? And how did they manage to erase their own monumental achievement from the pages of history so completely that it was only rediscovered by a curious farmer with a water pump? Time is the great destroyer. It turns iron to rust, stone to dust, and empires to memory. But what if an ancient civilization had mastered a secret to defy time itself? In 1965, archaeologists in China opened a waterlogged 2,500-year-old tomb and found a sword that should not exist. A blade as pristine, as gleaming, and as lethally sharp as the day it was forged. The discovery was made in Hubei province, in a tomb from China's legendary spring and autumn period. While other bronze artifacts unearthed from the tomb were heavily corroded, as expected, this single sword was found sealed in an almost airtight wooden scabbard in a state of near-perfect preservation. When it was unsheathed for the first time in 2.5 millennia, the archaeologists could not believe their eyes. The blade showed almost no signs of corrosion. This was not just a preserved relic, it was still a perfectly functional weapon. In a now famous test, researchers found that the blade could still effortlessly slice through a stack of 20 pieces of paper, demonstrating a sharpness that had impossibly survived the ages. How could a bronze sword, buried for 2,500 years in a humid environment, remain completely untarnished and razor-sharp? The secret lies in a lost art of ancient metallurgy that science is only just beginning to understand. Analysis of the blade revealed it was crafted from a complex and highly advanced bronze alloy, consisting mainly of copper, but with specific, carefully controlled amounts of tin and other trace elements, like lead and sulfur. This unique recipe, combined with a sophisticated surface treatment, created a metal that was incredibly resistant to rust and decay. The craftsmen who forged this blade were not just smiths, they were master chemists. But whose sword was it? The answer was found etched near the hilt in 8 ancient Chinese characters. The inscription was clear: King of Yue made this sword, for personal use. This was the personal weapon of King Gujian, one of the most famous and determined rulers in Chinese history. King Gujian was a legendary figure, known for his incredible perseverance. After a devastating defeat by the rival state of Wu, he endured years of humiliation and hardship, famously sleeping on bundles of sticks and tasting bile to never forget his shame. He slowly rebuilt his kingdom in secret, and after years of careful planning, he returned to conquer his enemies and restore his state to prominence. This sword was not just a weapon, it was a symbol of his unbreakable will, his royal authority, and his ultimate triumph. The swordsmiths of the ancient Yu state were legendary, their techniques so advanced they were considered almost magical. They possessed a deep, empirical knowledge of metallurgy, allowing them to create blades that were both incredibly strong and seemingly immortal. This knowledge, this perfect formula for defying time, appears to have been a closely guarded secret that has since been lost to the ages. The sword of Gujian is more than just a well-preserved weapon. It is a time capsule. It is a testament to a lost golden age of science, proving that ancient artisans possessed a mastery of materials that we are only now beginning to appreciate. It lies today in a museum, gleaming under the lights, having defeated its one true enemy, time itself. We think we know the Romans. We know their legions, their aqueducts, their emperors, and their obsessive, meticulous records. But scattered across the northern frontiers of their once great empire, archaeologists have found over 100 identical, complex, and completely baffling objects that are mentioned in no Roman text and depicted in no Roman art. They are a ghost artifact from a civilization that documented everything, the Roman dodecahedrons. First discovered in the 18th century, these curious objects are hollow, 12-sided geometric forms, typically cast in bronze. Each of their 12 flat pentagonal faces features a circular hole, but the holes are all of different sizes, ranging from tiny openings to large apertures. To add to their complexity, each of the 20 corners is adorned with a small protruding knob 3. They are intricate, beautifully crafted, and clearly required significant skill to produce, suggesting they were objects of considerable value. The mystery begins with their location. Over 100 of these dodecahedrons have been unearthed in what were the northern provinces of the empire, from Great Britain and France to Germany and Hungary. But strangely, not a single one has ever been found in the heart of the empire, in Italy or Rome itself. This suggests they were not a mainstream Roman tool, but perhaps belonged to the unique Gallo-Roman or Celtic cultures that thrived on the empire's fringes. But the most puzzling aspect is the deafening silence of history. The Romans documented everything, from military campaigns to sewer construction, yet there is not one single surviving text, inscription, or mosaic that mentions or depicts these widespread objects. Were they so common that no one bothered to write about them? Or was their purpose so secret, so tied to forbidden local rituals, that it was deliberately kept out of the official records? This historical vacuum has led to a storm of theories, with each attempt to solve the puzzle only deepening the enigma. One popular idea is that they were measuring instruments, perhaps a gauge for sizing water pipes or weapon projectiles. However, the holes are not standardized across the different dodecahedrons found, which makes them useless as a reliable, universal measuring tool.
Another theory proposes they were astronomical devices, used to determine the optimal date for planting winter crops by observing the angle of sunlight through the holes. But this would only work at a very specific latitude, and the dodecahedrons have been found across thousands of miles of Europe. Others have speculated they were toys or parts of a forgotten game, but their complex shape and protruding knobs make them highly impractical as dice. A more recent and practical theory suggests they were knitting tools, used specifically to create the fingers of Roman gloves. Modern hobbyists have even demonstrated that this is possible. Yet it seems like an incredibly over-engineered and valuable object for such a simple, mundane task. The most compelling theory is that they were used for religious or magical rituals, perhaps in divination or prophecy. This would explain their secrecy, their value, and why they have been found in graves and alongside hoards of coins. They may have been sacred objects, their purpose only understood by initiates of a mystery cult that the Romans chose to ignore or suppress. The Roman dodecahedron is a perfect puzzle from the past. It's a key with no known lock, an answer without a question. It is a testament to the fact that even in one of history's best documented civilizations, there are pockets of complete and total mystery, reminders that the past is far stranger than we can imagine. We think of ancient Egyptian artifacts as golden masks, stone sarcophagi, and hieroglyphic carvings. But what if, hidden in a 5,000-year-old tomb, archaeologists found something that looks like it belongs in a modern machine shop? This is the story of the Sabu disk, a piece of technology so strange, so aerodynamically complex, and so out of place in history that it has baffled engineers for almost a century. The discovery was made in 1936, amidst the sprawling necropolis of Saqqara. While excavating the tomb of Prince Sabu, an important official who lived during Egypt's very first dynasty, archaeologists found the usual array of burial goods: pottery, copper tools, and ivory boxes. But among them was one object that made no sense. It was a circular stone artifact meticulously carved from a dark, brittle rock called schist. Measuring about 2 feet in diameter, the object has a unique and bizarre shape. It looks like a steering wheel, but with 3 thin, gracefully curved lobes or blades that fold back towards the center, where there is a hole for a spindle. The craftsmanship is extraordinary. Schist is a fragile, layered stone that is notoriously difficult to carve with such precision, and modern stonemasons admit that creating such a complex, delicate object would be a monumental challenge, even with today's advanced tools. But the true mystery is not how it was made, but why. What was its purpose? The object's form seems undeniably functional, yet its function is completely unknown.
Mainstream Egyptologists have proposed that it might have been a highly ornate bowl or the base for a ceremonial stand. But the shape is not well suited for holding anything, and it bears no inscriptions or symbolic carvings that would typically be found on a ritual object. Its design feels purely mechanical. This is where the mystery deepens into the realm of the impossible. The Sabu disc looks, for all the world, like a piece of a modern machine. Its 3 curved blades and central hub are strikingly similar to the impeller of a centrifugal pump, a key component in sophisticated water pumps. Others have pointed out its resemblance to a propeller or a turbine, suggesting a deep understanding of aerodynamics or hydrodynamics. If it were spun at high speed, it would be remarkably effective at moving either air or water. This presents a breathtaking paradox. The Sabu disc dates back to 3000 BCE, a time when Egyptian technology was thought to be in its infancy. There is absolutely no other evidence, no texts, no diagrams, and no other machine parts to suggest that the ancient Egyptians possessed this kind of advanced mechanical knowledge. To find what appears to be the core component of a complex machine, all alone, in a 5,000-year-old tomb is like finding a jet engine in a medieval castle. The Sabu disc sits silently in the Cairo Museum, defying every simple explanation. Is it just a uniquely shaped ceremonial bowl whose meaning is lost to time? Or is it a ghost from a lost technological past? A single surviving part of a machine whose full function we can only guess at. It is a 5,000-year-old propeller without an engine, a turbine without a power source, a single undeniable piece of evidence that the story of our technological development is not as simple as we have been led to believe. Deep in the dense jungles of Costa Rica, a lost civilization left behind a strange, beautiful, and utterly baffling legacy. Scattered across the landscape by the hundreds lie giant, perfectly spherical stone balls. Who made them? How did they achieve such flawless perfection, and what were they for? These are the silent sentinels of a culture that vanished without a trace, taking their secrets with them. These stone spheres were unknown to the modern world until the 1930s, when workers for the United Fruit Company began clearing the jungle for banana plantations. As they cut back the thick vegetation, they stumbled upon these incredible objects, some small enough to hold, others towering over a grown man and weighing up to 16 tons. Believing local legends that the spheres contained hidden gold, many of the workers unfortunately destroyed them with dynamite, shattering priceless historical artifacts in a futile treasure hunt. What makes these spheres so mysterious is their near-perfect roundness. They are carved from granodiorite, an extremely hard volcanic rock, yet they are shaped with a precision that would be a monumental challenge even for a modern sculptor with power tools. How did a culture, supposedly without the wheel, without metal tools, and without a written language, achieve this level of geometric perfection? The people credited with this incredible feat are known as the Dakis culture, a civilization that flourished in the region from around 600 AD. They were a sophisticated society, with established settlements and a rich artistic tradition. But sometime before the Spanish arrived in the 16th century, their culture completely disappeared, leaving behind only these enigmatic spheres as the sole testament to their existence. They left no records, no legends, and no explanation for their most magnificent creations. The purpose of the spheres remains one of archaeology's most profound puzzles. Were they symbols of power and social status, placed in front of the homes of chieftains to signify their rank? The immense labor required to create and move them certainly suggests they were objects of great value and importance. Or perhaps they were territorial markers, delineating the boundaries between different clans. A more tantalizing theory is that the spheres formed a vast ancient astronomical calendar, Some researchers believe they were once arranged in specific alignments across the landscape to track the movements of the sun, moon, and stars, marking important dates like the solstices and equinoxes. This would make the entire region a kind of giant, three-dimensional celestial map. Unfortunately, over the centuries, most of the spheres have been moved from their original locations, making it nearly impossible to ever prove this cosmic connection. Without any written records, all we have is speculation. The true meaning of these perfect spheres is a secret that died with the people who made them. They are a form of silent, geometric art left behind by a ghost culture, a testament to the boundless creativity and painstaking effort of people in the past. They pose a profound question. Are they simply stunning works of art, or do they contain a message, a cosmic alignment that we have yet to understand? They remain a beautiful, unsolved puzzle, dotting the landscape like the forgotten marbles of the gods. When we think of the Bronze Age in Europe, we imagine a primitive world of warring chieftains and crude stone circles. We do not imagine sophisticated astronomy or precision instruments. But in 1999, a pair of illegal treasure hunters digging in a German forest unearthed an object that proves this view is completely wrong. A 3,600-year-old map of the stars that has rewritten the history of science. The discovery of the Nebra sky disk was a drama in itself. It was found not by archaeologists, but by looters with metal detectors, who quickly sold the priceless artifact onto the black market. For years, it was traded in secret, until a dramatic police sting operation in a Swiss hotel finally recovered it for the world. When researchers first saw the bronze disk, about the size of a dinner plate and inlaid with shimmering gold symbols, they knew they had something extraordinary. The disk is a beautiful and mysterious object. It features a golden crescent moon, a golden full moon, or perhaps the sun, and a cluster of 32 golden dots representing stars. At first, it was thought to be a ritual shield or a decorative object. But when astronomers analyzed the arrangement of the symbols, they made a breathtaking discovery. This was not just art, it was a sophisticated and surprisingly accurate astronomical instrument. The cluster of 7 gold dots in one corner was instantly recognizable. It is a perfect depiction of the Pleiades star cluster, a constellation that was crucially important to ancient agricultural societies worldwide. Its appearance in the night sky signaled the time for planting crops in the spring and harvesting in the fall. The other symbols, along with golden arcs later added to the edge of the disk, allowed its user to track the movements of the sun, determine the solstices, and even reconcile the differences between the solar and lunar calendars. This is the oldest known concrete depiction of the cosmos in human history. Created around 1600 BCE, it proves that Bronze Age people in the heart of Europe, long dismissed as barbarians compared to the great civilizations of Egypt and Mesopotamia, possessed a deep and functional understanding of celestial mechanics. This was not a simple sundial, it was a complex analog calculator, a portable tool that fused science and religion, allowing its user to predict and understand the heavens. The disk's sophistication was so unprecedented that for years many scholars insisted it had to be a modern forgery. But exhaustive scientific analysis has proven its authenticity beyond any doubt. The bronze was sourced from mines in the Eastern Alps, and the gold from the rivers of Cornwall in England, mapping out the vast trade networks of the Bronze Age. The artifact is genuine. But while we know what it is, we are left with a profound mystery. Who were these ancient astronomers? The disk is attributed to the Unetithis culture, a people who dominated Central Europe but left behind no written language. How did they acquire such precise observational knowledge, passed down through generations without any texts to record it? The Nebra sky disk is a revolution in a single object. It is a stunning glimpse into the mind of Bronze Age man, revealing a level of scientific curiosity and intellectual achievement we never thought possible. It is hard proof that advanced knowledge was not confined to the great empires of the South, but flourished in the forests of ancient Europe. It is a powerful reminder that there are entire universes of lost knowledge from our past, sometimes found by accident, buried in a shallow grave on a German hillside. "13,000 years ago, as the Great Ice Age was breathing its last, the first widespread culture of North America emerged. They were master hunters and skilled technologists who created beautiful and deadly stone spear points, so unique they would one day define their legacy. We call them the Clovis people. They thrived in a world of mammoths and giant beasts, and then, in the blink of a geological eye, they vanished from the face of the earth. The Clovis people are regarded as masters of stone technology. Their distinctive fluted spear points, first discovered near Clovis, New Mexico, are masterpieces of ancient craftsmanship, so sharp and effective that they allowed these hunters to prey on the colossal megafauna of the Ice Age. They were the apex predators of their time, a successful and expanding culture that spread across the continent. For centuries, they flourished, and then they were gone. The archaeological record falls silent. The distinctive Clovis points stop being made. The culture that had dominated a continent disappears so suddenly, so completely, it's as if they were erased from existence. For decades, the leading theory was that the Clovis people were victims of their own success. That they were such effective hunters, they drove the mammoths and other large animals to extinction and then starved as a result. But a new, far more terrifying theory has emerged. One that suggests the Clovis people did not cause an extinction event, they were victims of one. Around 12,900 years ago, something catastrophic happened to our planet. Geologists have found evidence at ancient sites across the world of a black mat layer, a dark scar in the earth that dates to this exact period. This layer contains cosmic glass, nanodiamonds, and widespread carbon dust, all telltale signs of a massive, high-temperature cataclysm from space. This is the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis, the theory that a comet or asteroid broke apart and exploded over North America. The event would have been an apocalypse. Imagine a sky on fire, with multiple airbursts triggering continent-spanning wildfires that scorched the landscape and wiped out forests. The impact would have destabilized the great ice sheets, sending a deluge of fresh, cold water into the oceans and plunging the planet back into a sudden, thousand-year-long winter. For the megafauna, the mammoths, mastodons, and giant sloths, it was an extinction-level event. For the Clovis people who depended on them for survival, it was the end of their world. They were not a culture that slowly declined. They were a people living through a planetary disaster of fire and ice. Their disappearance from the archaeological record was not a choice, it was an obliteration. The story of the Clovis people is a chilling reminder of how fragile even a thriving civilization can be, especially when faced with a threat from the cosmos. Their fate is a warning written into the very soil of North America. A story of a lost people wiped out by a fire from the sky. All that is left of them are their beautifully crafted stone points, the silent, elegant tombstones for an entire culture that was, and then, suddenly, was not. When we think of great, ancient civilizations in Africa, our minds tend to focus on one place, Egypt. But what if, thousands of years ago, another sophisticated culture flourished in the heart of the continent? A people who were among the first in the world to master iron, who created stunning works of art, and who then vanished from history so completely that we still don't truly know who they were. This is the mystery of the Nok culture. Our story begins, like so many others, by accident. In 1928, tin miners working near the Nigerian village of Nok began unearthing beautifully crafted terracotta heads from the soil. Initially, these were dismissed as mere curiosities, but as more and more were found, archaeologists realized they were the artifacts of a vast and previously unknown civilization that had thrived in the region for nearly 2,000 years, from 1500 BCE to 500 AD. The art of the Nok is haunting and unmistakable. They created thousands of terracotta sculptures, primarily human heads and figures, all with a highly distinctive style: elongated heads, piercing almond-shaped eyes, and incredibly elaborate and detailed hairstyles and jewelry. Each face is unique, imbued with a distinct personality, showcasing a level of artistic sophistication and technical skill that was, for its time, revolutionary. But the Nok were not just artists. They were technological pioneers. Archaeological evidence shows that they were one of the earliest cultures in sub-Saharan Africa to develop the complex technology of iron smelting. This gave them a massive advantage, allowing them to create superior tools for agriculture and superior weapons for defense. They were a powerful, advanced, and successful civilization. And yet, they are a ghost civilization. The Nok people left behind no written language, no large-scale stone monuments, and no grand tombs. Almost everything we know about them comes from their enigmatic terracotta art. And because many of these artifacts have been unearthed by looters or found in isolation, we have almost no archaeological context for them. We have the art, but we have lost the story. The purpose of these striking terracotta heads remains a profound mystery. Were they portraits of revered ancestors used in rituals to honor the dead? Or were they idols representing the gods and spirits that the Nok people worshipped? Their elaborate features and dignified expressions suggest they held a deep symbolic importance, but without any written records, their true meaning is lost to us. The final mystery is the most troubling. Around 500 AD, after flourishing for 2 millennia, the Nok culture simply disappears from the archaeological record. The creation of their unique terracotta art stops. It is as if a great civilization simply walked off the stage of history. What happened to them? Did they succumb to a dramatic shift in climate, a devastating epidemic, or an invasion by a rival culture? With no historical records, we simply do not know. All we have left are their faces. Thousands of terracotta heads unearthed from the Nigerian soil, staring out at us from a lost past. They are a powerful testament to a great African civilization that rose, thrived, and vanished long before many of the world's better-known empires. Their story is a profound reminder of how much of our planet's history remains unwritten, and how entire cultures can be erased from time, leaving behind only the haunting, silent faces of their people. In the culture of the samurai, a sword was never just a weapon. It was the physical embodiment of a warrior's honor, a work of art, and, in some cases, a vessel of magical power. But among the countless legendary blades forged in the history of Japan, 5 are held above all others. They are the Tenka-Goken, the 5 heavenly swords, masterpieces of such perfection and mythic power that they are considered national treasures. 3 of them are safe, 2 have vanished from the world. These 5 swords were all forged during Japan's Kamakura and Heian periods, a golden age of sword-making when the craft was elevated to a spiritual art form. They are not just famous for their unparalleled quality, but for the incredible legends attached to them. One of the most famous is the Dojigiri Yasutsuna, the Demon Slayer. According to legend, this was the blade wielded by the great warrior Minamoto no Yorimitsu to slay the fearsome demon king Shutendoji, who terrorized the lands near Kyoto. The sword's very name is a monument to this mythic victory, and the blade itself, a masterpiece of balance and lethal beauty, is now preserved in the Tokyo National Museum. Another of the heavenly swords is the Mikazuki Munechika, the crescent moon. Its name reflects the graceful, stunning curve of its blade, which is considered one of the most beautiful ever created. Forged by a master swordsmith, it was treasured for centuries by some of Japan's most powerful families, a symbol of elegance and authority. It, too, is now safely protected as a national treasure. The third is the Juzumaru Tsunetsugu, or the Rosary Sword, a blade whose story is one of faith rather than battle. It was famously owned by the influential Buddhist priest Nichiren, who saw it not as a weapon, but as a spiritual tool for protection, a guardian against evil. But it is the two remaining swords that have transformed from history into a haunting mystery. The first is the Onimaru Kunitsuna, the demon sword. Legend tells that this blade once belonged to a powerful regent who was tormented nightly by a demon or evil spirit in his dreams. One night, the sword, acting of its own accord, fell from its rack and killed a silver brazier in the room that was shaped like a demon, ending the regent's torment forever. The sword became known as a powerful protective talisman against evil. But despite its incredible fame, the Onimaru's current whereabouts are completely unknown. It is a legendary guardian that has vanished from the world it once protected. Even more mysterious is the Odenta Mitsuyo. Forged by a celebrated smith, its history is tied to the great clans of feudal Japan. It was passed down through generations of powerful feudal lords, a symbol of their might. But while historical records trace its ownership for a time, its trail eventually goes cold. Its location today is a complete enigma. The sword simply disappeared from the annals of history, shrouded in rumor and speculation. Where did these two national treasures go? Were they destroyed in one of the many fires or civil wars that have ravaged Japan throughout its history? Or are they still out there, hidden away in a private collection or a remote temple, their owners perhaps unaware of the legendary power of the blades they possess? The hunt for these lost swords continues to this day, fueling the imagination of historians and treasure hunters alike. They are more than just missing artifacts. They are lost souls of the samurai, a powerful reminder that some of history's greatest treasures are not buried under the sand, but are simply lost to the currents of time, waiting to be rediscovered. For centuries, the world has looked to the sun-scorched sands of Egypt for the ultimate symbols of ancient ambition, the pyramids of Giza. But what if the greatest pyramids on Earth are not in Egypt at all? What if a pyramid so colossal, so ancient, and so shrouded in secrecy exists in the heart of China, hidden from the world not just by time, but by an iron curtain of government denial? The story exploded into the Western consciousness in 1945. During a flight over the remote mountains of China's Shanxi province, an American pilot named James Gaussman saw something that defied belief. There, in a valley below, stood a colossal pyramid, its four faces gleaming with a brilliant white material that made it shine like a jewel. He reported that it dwarfed any pyramid he had ever seen or read about in Egypt. His account was dismissed by many as a wartime fantasy, until 2 years later, when another pilot, Maurice Sheehan, not only confirmed the sighting, but managed to snap a few blurry black and white photographs of the impossible structure. The images caused a sensation. Archaeologists and adventurers were desperate to investigate this potential wonder of the ancient world. But their window of opportunity slammed shut. As China's borders closed to the west, the entire region surrounding the pyramid was declared a restricted zone, off-limits to all foreign explorers. The mystery was locked away. For decades, the official Chinese government position has been one of dismissal. They claimed these structures are not true pyramids, but simple, tapered burial mounds for ancient emperors, built from mud and earth. But this official narrative conceals a far grander reality. The structure Gaussman saw, now known as the Great White Pyramid, is estimated to stand a staggering 300 meters tall, nearly double the height of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Local legends speak of a time when its faces were encased in a layer of pure white stone, which reflected the sun and made it visible for miles. It was not just a mound, it was a man-made mountain, a beacon designed to be seen from the heavens. And it is not alone. In recent decades, satellite images released by various international sources have confirmed that Gaussman's pyramid is just one of a vast complex of over 100 similar structures scattered throughout the province. Many of these lesser pyramids are still immense, some rising over 100 meters tall, forming a silent, sprawling necropolis that rivals the scale of Egypt's Valley of the Kings.
The mystery deepens when you look at their layout. Researchers have noted that the arrangement of many of these pyramids appears to align with certain constellations, particularly Orion, echoing the famous celestial correlation of the Giza Plateau. This suggests a shared, sophisticated astronomical knowledge, a sacred geometry practiced by ancient cultures on opposite sides of the world. So, who built them, and why the secrecy? If they are merely the tombs of emperors, why deny their true pyramidal form and block all independent investigation? This wall of silence has fueled a storm of speculation. Some researchers believe these structures are relics of a lost civilization that predates recorded Chinese history, perhaps built by the legendary ancestors of the Han people. More radical theories propose they were ancient astronomical observatories, or even part of a global energy network connected to other pyramid sites around the world. To this day, no foreign archaeologist has ever been granted permission to excavate or rigorously study these forbidden structures. They remain abandoned, shrouded in earth and trees, protected by both government restriction and an ancient belief that one must not disturb an emperor's slumber lest a terrible curse be unleashed upon the land. The White Pyramid is more than a forgotten wonder. It is a forbidden one. It is a monumental truth proven to exist by eyewitnesses and satellite photos. Yet its purpose and its creators remain a state secret. It leaves us with a chilling question. What lies buried beneath that shroud of secrecy that is so profound, so history-altering, that it must be hidden from the eyes of the world?
Over 2,500 years ago, the Greek historian Herodotus, the father of history, journeyed through Egypt, documenting its wonders with a curious and skeptical eye. He saw the Great Pyramids, marveling at their scale, yet he wrote of another structure so colossal, so complex, that it made even the pyramids pale in comparison. He described a gargantuan labyrinth, a maze of thousands of rooms and corridors that he claimed surpassed all other human works. For centuries, his account was dismissed as a wild exaggeration, a fanciful tale from a notoriously dramatic storyteller. Then, in 2008, modern technology peered beneath the sands and proved that the legend was terrifyingly real. Located near the Hawara Pyramid in the Fayum Oasis, the labyrinth, according to Herodotus, was a two-level architectural miracle. It contained an unbelievable 3,000 rooms, 1,500 of them above ground and another 1,500 in a subterranean complex below. He described 12 magnificent roofed courts surrounded by flawlessly joined white stone columns and connected by a bewildering network of winding passages that would confuse any intruder. The walls were covered in intricate hieroglyphs, and the ceilings of many rooms were said to be fashioned from single, massive slabs of stone. Herodotus was utterly awestruck, writing, "If all the works of the Greeks were put together, they would not equal this labyrinth in labor and expense." He was not alone. Other ancient historians like Strabo and Pliny also spoke of this colossal wonder, confirming its existence. Yet the greatest mystery lay in the labyrinth's forbidden lower level. When Herodotus asked to see the underground chambers, his Egyptian guides refused him entry. They told him the subterranean rooms were sacred, for they contained the tombs of the kings who had built the labyrinth, and, even more mysteriously, the remains of holy crocodiles. For 2 millennia, this architectural titan simply vanished. Swallowed by the shifting sands of the desert, it slipped from history into myth. Modern archaeologists, finding no trace of such a massive structure on the surface, largely concluded that Herodotus had simply been spinning a tall tale. That is, until 2008, when an expedition led by the Mataha group brought ground-penetrating radar to the Hawara site. What their scans revealed was nothing short of world-changing.
Deep beneath the surface, exactly where the ancient writers had placed it, the radar detected a vast and complex structure. It was an enormous grid of walls, chambers, and halls, covering an area larger than the great temples of Karnak and Luxor combined. The scans confirmed the existence of a colossal underground system, matching the descriptions of the fabled labyrinth with stunning accuracy. It was no myth, it was real, and it had been lying in wait just beneath their feet all along. The discovery should have been the archaeological news of the century, a find that could fundamentally rewrite our understanding of the ancient world. But what happened next is perhaps the most shocking part of this story. According to the researchers, Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities immediately ordered that the results be suppressed, citing vague reasons of national security. The Mataha team waited for 2 years for official permission to go public with their monumental find, but they were met with nothing but silence and obstruction. In the end, unwilling to let one of history's greatest discoveries be buried again, they created a website and shared their findings with the world. Since then, no major excavations have been allowed at the site, and access to Hawara remains tightly restricted. This raises a chilling and profound question. Why would a discovery that could rewrite history be deliberately kept secret? What lies in those 1,500 unexplored subterranean chambers that authorities do not want the world to know about? Could the labyrinth contain the treasures and artifacts of a lost dynasty, or perhaps texts revealing the secrets of a civilization that predates even the ancient Egyptians? The Hawara labyrinth is no longer just a lost wonder of the ancient world. It is a modern-day conspiracy, a confirmed truth that is being actively concealed. It remains an unsolved riddle, a monumental secret guarded not just by the desert sands, but by those who fear what its unearthing might unleash.
In Egypt, the land of golden pharaohs and sands that whisper with history, there stands a temple so ancient, so alien in its design, that it seems to belong to another world entirely. This is the Osirian at Abydos, a subterranean granite structure submerged in a mysterious water that appears to violate the very laws of physics. It is a place that predates the known pharaohs, a structure built with 100-ton blocks, and it may hold a secret to a forgotten chapter of human history. While most Egyptian temples are linear, open to the sky, and covered in a universe of intricate hieroglyphs, the Osirian is the exact opposite. It is a stark, subterranean complex built from colossal blocks of rose granite and is eerily bare of any original Egyptian carvings or artwork. The pharaoh Seti I built his famous temple right next to it, but archaeological evidence suggests the Osirian was already ancient in his time, a relic from a bygone era that the pharaohs themselves revered and built around. The construction itself is a familiar impossibility. The core of the structure is composed of massive granite monoliths, some weighing an astonishing 100 tons each. These immense stones were quarried in Aswan, over 200 miles to the south, and transported across the desert to be assembled with a seamless, mortarless precision that rivals the impossible stonework of Baalbek. How a civilization, thousands of years ago, accomplished this feat remains an unanswered question. But the true mystery of the Osirian lies not in its stones, but in the water that perpetually floods its chambers. The entire structure is submerged, and despite numerous attempts, archaeologists have been utterly unable to drain it. Modern high-powered pumps, capable of removing 500 gallons of water per minute, have been brought in, only for researchers to watch in frustration as the water level continues to rise, seemingly replenishing itself from within the structure's floor at an alarming rate. It is as if the temple itself is alive, actively producing the water that guards its secrets. Scientific analysis of this water has only deepened the enigma. Its chemical profile is unique, completely different from the nearby Nile River or any of the surrounding wells and aquifers. The water appears to be forced up from a deep, undiscovered source, behaving more like a geyser but without any volcanic activity. But the most baffling discovery defies our fundamental understanding of science. Researchers found that the water inside the Osirian is significantly warmer than the water in the surrounding area, a phenomenon that appears to violate the second law of thermodynamics. Heat cannot spontaneously flow from a cooler body to a warmer one, yet something deep within the Osirian is actively heating the water, an invisible engine that has been running for millennia. This has led to incredible speculation. Could the Osirian be more than a temple? Could it be a machine, an ancient energy device whose true function is tied to the water it produces? The mystery took a personal turn when one researcher, after drinking the filtered water from the site over a long period, claimed his lifelong nearsightedness began to improve, eventually to the point where he no longer needed glasses. While anecdotal, it adds another layer to the legend. Could these be the fabled healing waters of ancient lore? Many now believe the Osirian is far older than any dynastic Egyptian structure, perhaps dating back over 10,000 years to a time when the region's climate was much wetter. The Osirian is not an Egyptian temple. It is a water-filled enigma that hums with a strange energy, a powerful remnant of a civilization that understood the forces of nature in a way we have long forgotten. Its secrets remain protected by a constant, inexplicable flow of water, hiding a truth about our planet's deep past. The Bible is filled with tales of divine wrath, of cities like Sodom and Gomorrah laid to waste by fire from heaven. For centuries, we have read these accounts as metaphor and myth. But what if one of these prophecies came true? What if archaeologists digging in the sands of Egypt found the ruins of a great biblical city, its granite stones scorched and melted by a heat so intense it defies all natural explanation? This is the terrifying mystery of Tanis. Known in the Old Testament as Zoan, Tanis was once a glorious capital of Egypt. It was a holy city dedicated to the sun god Amun-Ra, and its temple complex was said to rival the grandeur of Karnak. Its builders erected colossal statues and transported 20-ton granite pillars over 1,000 kilometers from the quarries of Aswan to adorn their magnificent city. But when the first modern explorers arrived in the 19th century, they found a scene of almost biblical destruction. It was a desolate landscape of utter devastation. Gigantic stone pillars lay smashed and broken like the forgotten toys of giants. Priceless statues, once polished to a gleam, bore the scars of an unimaginable fire. The city had not just crumbled, it had been annihilated. One of the most famous Egyptologists, Flinders Petrie, unearthed the colossal foot of a single statue, and based on its scale, he calculated that the original statue would have stood 100 feet tall and weighed an estimated 1,500 tons, a feat of engineering that challenges our understanding of the past. This was a city of titans. So what could have brought it to such a catastrophic end? Earthquakes have plagued Egypt for millennia, and they could certainly explain the toppled pillars. But they cannot explain the most disturbing evidence of all, the scorch marks. Many of the granite statues and building blocks show clear signs of vitrification, of being subjected to a heat so extreme that the surface of the stone itself began to melt and bubble. To achieve this, temperatures would have had to exceed 1200 degrees Celsius, far hotter than a simple city fire or a lightning strike. What kind of inferno could melt solid granite? This is where the ancient texts and modern science collide. The prophet Ezekiel in the Old Testament foretold the city's doom, declaring, "I will set fire to Zoan." Was this a literal prophecy, an account of divine retribution that used a heavenly fire to destroy the city?
Some have proposed a cosmic event, like a meteor airburst over the city, which could have generated the necessary heat. But another, more chilling theory has emerged, one that suggests this was not the work of a god, but the work of man, wielding a terrifying ancient superweapon. Researchers have pointed to the striking similarities between the destruction at Tanis and the effects of the legendary Greek fire. Used by the Byzantine Empire centuries later, Greek fire was a devastating incendiary weapon, an ancient form of napalm that could ignite on contact with water and was projected from flamethrowing devices. It was a weapon so terrifying that its formula was a closely guarded state secret. Could an earlier, forgotten version of this horrific technology have been unleashed upon Tanis, burning with a heat so intense it liquefied stone and erased a great city from existence? The ruins of Tanis are a crime scene. The city was not simply abandoned, it was destroyed by a conflagration of unnatural, impossible intensity. Was it the fulfillment of a biblical prophecy, a fiery strike from the heavens, or the terrifying deployment of a lost superweapon? The scorched stones hold their secret, a silent testament to a day when the city of the sun was consumed by an inferno, leaving behind a mystery that still burns in our imagination.
Almost every ancient culture on Earth has a myth of a lost race of giants. From the Cyclops of ancient Greece to the Nephilim of the Bible, these tales speak of a forgotten, heroic age when colossal beings walked the earth. We read them as legends, as fairy tales. But what if they were not myths at all? What if, in a Bronze Age burial mound in France, archaeologists found the physical, undeniable proof that giants are real? The story begins in the winter of 1890, in the small village of Castelnau-le-Lez. An anthropologist named Georges Vacher de la Pouge was excavating a burial mound when he unearthed 3 enormous bone fragments. They were a section of a femur, part of a tibia, and a piece of an arm bone, but they were unlike any human bones he had ever seen. They were gigantic. The measurements, published in the scientific journal La Nature, were staggering. The fragments were more than twice the size of a modern human's bones. Based on his calculations, Lapouge estimated that the individual to whom they belonged must have stood over 11 feet tall, or 3.5 meters. He was adamant in his report that despite their extraordinary size, these were unquestionably human bones. Seeking confirmation, the fragments were sent to the University of Montpellier for expert analysis. There, leading figures in zoology, paleontology, and anatomy all examined the bones. Their conclusion was the same. The bones belonged to a very tall race of human. The scientific community of the day had seemingly confirmed the existence of a prehistoric giant. Just a few years later, the story grew. More reports emerged of giant skulls and massive bone fragments being discovered nearby, belonging to individuals estimated to be between 10 and 15 feet tall. These incredible remains were reportedly sent to the French Academy of Sciences in Paris for further study, and then they vanished. Every single one of these revolutionary bones, the original Castelnau fragments and the later skulls, disappeared from the historical and scientific record. They have never been seen again, leaving modern science completely unable to re-examine the evidence with our advanced technology. This vanishing act is where the mystery deepens into a possible conspiracy. Modern skeptics, without access to the original bones, now suggest that the 19th century scientists simply made a mistake. They propose the fragments may have belonged to a giant prehistoric animal, like a cave bear, and were simply misidentified. But this explanation is difficult to accept. Would an entire team of leading anatomical experts at a major university make such a fundamental error? And if it was just a simple mistake, why have the bones, the very evidence that could clear up the confusion, conveniently disappeared? The story of the giant of Castelnau is a tantalizing and frustrating glimpse into a forbidden chapter of our past. Was it just a scientific error from a bygone era? Or was it real, physical proof that the ancient myths are true, evidence so revolutionary to our understanding of human history that it had to be hidden away and erased from the record? With the bones now lost to time, we are left with only the old scientific reports and the enduring legend of a time when giants walked the earth. Our history books tell us a simple story. Complex life crawled from the primordial soup. Dinosaurs rose and fell, and humanity is a mere infant, a recent arrival on a very old planet. But what if that is the greatest lie we have ever been told? In 1969, deep in a Siberian coal mine, a discovery was made that is so reality-shattering, so utterly impossible, that it was immediately erased from history by the highest levels of government. The story begins in the remote village of Rzhavchik, where a team of miners was toiling 230 feet beneath the Earth's surface. They were excavating a coal seam formed during the Carboniferous period, a geological layer hundreds of millions of years old. Suddenly, a miner's pickaxe struck something that didn't belong. It made a hollow, metallic sound, an unnatural echo in the solid rock. Clearing away the coal, they found themselves staring at the impossible. There, embedded in a layer of rock that predated the dinosaurs, was a massive, exquisitely crafted marble sarcophagus. It was a perfectly designed, man-made object from a time when, according to our science, no man could have possibly existed. Driven by a mix of awe and suspicion, the miners decided they had to see what was inside before the authorities could arrive and confiscate their discovery. What they found would haunt them for the rest of their lives. Lifting the heavy stone lid, they did not find a skeleton or dust. Instead, immersed in a crystal-clear, pinkish-blue liquid, was the body of a beautiful young woman. She appeared to be in her late 20s, with large blue eyes wide open and long, dark brown hair cascading down her body. She wore a strange, translucent white dress, and her skin was astonishingly smooth and pale, so lifelike it seemed as if she were merely asleep, not a relic from a forgotten eternity. She was not a mummy, she was perfectly preserved, as if placed in the tomb only yesterday. Beside her head rested a small black metal box, rectangular in shape, made of a material and design completely unknown to them. Word of the discovery spread like wildfire through the village, and soon a crowd gathered to see the Tissel princess. But the wonder quickly turned to fear. Soon after, the area was sealed off by the military and agents believed to be from the KGB. The official story was a potential infectious hazard, but the real reason was clear. They were there to seize the artifact and erase the event from existence. When they attempted to airlift the sarcophagus, it was too heavy. So, they decided to drain the mysterious pink liquid to lighten the load. As the fluid was pumped out, those present witnessed something horrifying. The woman's skin began to rapidly darken and shrivel before their very eyes. The liquid was the source of her impossible preservation. The sarcophagus and its contents were swiftly transported away to a secret location, never to be seen again. The official story was that nothing of importance was found. But a professor from Novosibirsk later visited the village and shared the suppressed scientific findings. The analysis was staggering. Standard dating methods were useless. The materials did not conform to any known parameters. Advanced techniques suggested the sarcophagus and the woman within it were approximately 800 million years old. This number is not just history-altering, it is reality-breaking. It suggests the existence of a highly advanced civilization on Earth during the Precambrian era, a time when our science tells us only simple algae and bacteria existed. Who were these people? Were they human or something else entirely? Was this woman an ancient astronaut placed in stasis for a future she would never see? The story of the Teasel princess was aggressively suppressed. Newspapers were confiscated and witnesses were silenced. It remains a ghost story, whispered in Siberia, a testament to a discovery so profound it threatened to unravel our entire understanding of life on Earth. What do you think? Is there a historical mystery that particularly captured your imagination? Which artifact sparked your curiosity the most? Share your thoughts, theories, or questions in the comments below. We love hearing from you. And if you enjoyed unraveling these historical puzzles with us, don't forget to subscribe for more journeys into the fascinating unknown.